game day for you. Game day on a Wednesday on the WAC Digital Network. Well, really over on News Radio KKOB with Hunter and Robert, your buddies. But game day on a weird season, on a game put together a couple of days ago in a place that's going to be your home for the next couple of weeks against a team that, I don't know, maybe you can get something. That's for the Lobos. I wasn't even talking about the NHL, which it's game day, JJ. They dropped the puck today as well on a new season. What's good, y'all? Merry game day. Lobos at Dixie State today. We're going to get into that. It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Jeff Siembieda, JJ Buck. Micah produces on the radio side. Josh flying solo downtown on the ProView Network side, bringing you the pictures of the show. You can watch them on ProViewNetworks.com. And, of course, on our Facebook page, the OD in the AM. The OD in the AM. JJ, it's a game that I think we're going to see new starting lineup. I think we're going to see, I mean, I don't know, I say new combinations. I think we've seen so many different combinations for Lobo basketball. But Paul Weir is basically saying, all right, let's see what the younger guys have. I won't be surprised if I see any combinations of guys out there. I don't know who you expect to see as your starting point guard, but I think it's going to be, let's see what sticks today and see if we can maybe find a way, Paul Weir's thought process, maybe find a way to snap this losing skid, which is now 6 in a row, and find some positives headed into the series at UNLV this weekend.
Attitude, effort, who's willing to empty the tank, who's willing to buy in, just some of the things that Paul Weir talked about after the last game, some of the things that he'll be looking for from his team tonight. And it's the young guys, like you said, and people are excited to see him. Javonte Johnson, Nolan Dorsey. It's time. Let's go. We need the reps, need the development. Might not always look pretty, but who's going to buy in, who's willing to continue to put in work in a difficult season, difficult time, and you'll find it tonight. And I think that was one of the reasons, not just a place to be, which makes sense for where they are in their schedule, but get out there, man. And because we're talking so much about practice, well, you know what? If you don't get to practice a lot, just play some games. Get out there and ball, see what you can do.
What do you expect to see? I know you say, and I think you're right, Lobo fans excited about these freshmen, and we're really hearing the excitement about, and you talked about Javonte Johnson and Nolan Dorsey. We're excited about 7 minutes and I think 7 points in 35 minutes combined. I think Javonte played, if I'm not mistaken, last game, and I don't have it up in front of me, 20 minutes, no points. And you got 7 points, I think, in 15 minutes out of Dorsey, if I recall the box score correctly. And that's what you're so excited about. That's where we are right now, and just grasping for something to get fired up about. So I don't know, is it going to be the eye test that tells you what's positive? Is it going to be you've got to win a game tonight that tells you what's positive? Because in reality, there's probably a reason that those guys are playing behind the guys whom they were playing behind.
Yeah, they're true freshmen, and they're not one and done guys. And it's anything to grasp onto right now for Lobo basketball. It has to be a win, because I don't think you'd lose into Dixie State. There's a lot of people that are going to be comfortable coming back with the eye test, going, yep, took a step forward, lost to Dixie State on a Wednesday night in the middle of Mountain West play and this ridiculous season that everyone is dealing with. So it's find a way to get a victory and just move on to UNLV.
All right. How do you balance, and this is where I've been really having this internal conflict with myself and in what Paul's trying to do. So how do you balance the rest of your roster with, all right, we're going forward, right? And I'm not even talking about Malwatch and McGee, because I think they're going to get their minutes and they're the upperclassmen. But I'm talking about the Jeremiah Francises. I mean, your big guys are going to play because you don't have a lot there. But the guys whom it'll cost them the time to take a look at these guys, the guys who have been seeing time, the guys, whether it's, I don't know, it's Quach probably won't see a lot of time. Marin is a freshman. I got to believe some of his time will go away. It might mean some time away from Francis or Rod Brown. So how do you manage this? Paul said, I'm not giving up on those guys. I still like them. But it's time to, the effort issue was obviously a big piece coming out of the last game.
You have the hard conversations that you have to have with players at times and saying, well, this is a decision I'm making. You're coming off the bench. I don't think it's going to be dramatic, and all of a sudden those guys are only playing 5 minutes a game, because I think Paul is still ultimately going to go deep into his bench, because that was his idea from the start with this basketball team, is to have a deep rotation. I don't necessarily see that changing. I think, as you said, it's just the guys starting the game, trying to get that energy, the effort out of the gate, which he felt it was the worst his team played at the start of a game last time out. And of course, that's saying something when you've looked at what has happened in Mountain West play. So I think while it's always a bummer not to start, the way we've seen the minutes distributed on this team, those guys are going to get on the floor. And it's really, as a coach, as a coaching staff, you just look at them and say, it's here for everyone. Like, who wants to step up? Who wants to lead this team? Who's going to get hot? The opportunity is there for any of y'all when you take the court.
All right. I asked you yesterday what you thought the line was. Have you seen the line?
Yes.
Have you seen it? All right, so I was relatively close. What did I say? Lobos by 3.5, I think I said. Lobos are favored by 1, which is crazy when you say, all right, here's a team that has lost their last 6 games by a combined average of 26 points, and they're going on the road and they're favored by a point. That's the respect that Dixie State does not get, and that's fine. I think they'll understand that, and you'll understand that. When I told you yesterday that, and people don't want to hear this, that Dixie State is much more like you than those last 3 conference opponents against whom you played. I know that's uncomfortable, but I think the line and the respect shows that, right? I mean, that's what Vegas is telling you, and they're pretty right most of the time. I think what Vegas is telling you is that they're pretty much the same.
There's no reason to believe differently at this moment in time with what we've seen transpire on the court.
Yeah. All right, you can watch the game. It's the WAC Digital Network. I do believe that's free viewing, 7 o'clock tonight. And, of course, listen to it over on 90, what are we these days? 90, what's KKOP's frequency? I know we've changed the FM twice. Mike, and is it 96.3? I'm pretty sure it's 96.3. News Radio KKOP, right. And, of course, AM 770. I know I'm supposed to know that, but weren't they were something else for a while, and then they moved over to 96.3. So that's where News Radio is, of course, on 770 AM News Radio KKOP. All right, we got a lot to do on a Wednesday for you. Number of Lobos football-wise moving. We've got a local signing for New Mexico United. We've got college football to talk about. There's the NFL playoff that is continuing with the divisional round coming up this weekend. Coaching news abound. You got a lot of news coming out of the NBA in regards to the James Harden stuff, and in regard to protocols. Why are we playing? So I want to hit there. And the National Hockey League season. So in honor of that, I broke out the Seattle Kraken today. The Seattle Kraken T-shirt. I don't think they're playing this year, though. I think they're a year away from playing. But still, original. Still a Kings guy, but I just love the Seattle Kraken logo.
It's a good logo. It's a great brand to jump in with. And if you look at Vegas, there's a lot of people excited in Seattle for that early success. Now, I'm interested to see some of the changes implemented, because when Vegas jumped on the scene, there were some discussions from another team, like maybe we need to readdress how many players we have to put available, because that might have been one of the best expansion teams we've ever seen from an expansion draft.
I think it was the best expansion team we've ever seen in the history of American sports. I don't think there's ever, I don't even know that we can have an argument about that. I think that first year Vegas Golden Knights team that went to the Stanley Cup finals, or final, singular, was the best expansion team in the history of American sports. I rest my case, Your Honor. Check, please. Like.
They're playing for a championship.
Gavel.
Yes.
Yeah. There's not even another conversation. But to your point, yeah. How are they going to handle the expansion draft? How many players are protected? Will they pull back by 1 per team? Right. I mean, 1 per team protected in the expansion draft to prevent them, or do they like that? I mean, do they want to enable their expansion team to be competitive right out of the gate? Because what it's done in Vegas, I'm waiting to see what happens when the Vegas Golden Knights are not good, because in their 3 years of existence, they've been good. They were good again last year. Now, granted, it was an odd COVID year. But before March, when it shut down, they were drawing great numbers again. And I think, I'm just telling you, I don't even think in Seattle. I know in Seattle, the Kraken are going to draw well. It's going to be super well received. And there's a push now. Do you think the Sonics will be back to NBA going back to Seattle? Like, is it going to be this year or next year where they announce expansion? It's almost like it's a given deal. I've told you a number of times, JJ, of all the moves I've watched, franchise moves in my lifetime, and this includes the Chargers moving out of San Diego, which bothers me still. The one that I thought was the biggest disservice was Seattle losing the Sonics, because they supported that team for years. We're a great fan base, and I hated the way it was done, and Oklahoma City came in and basically bought that team, stole and pulled them out. Seattle, that fan base deserves NBA back, and I think the NBA is really realizing that. And I think there's enough players. I mean, look, I don't know how many Detroit Pistons or Orlando Magic kind of teams do we need? Another one or two isn't going to hurt anybody. And if you can put more money in the coffers and put it in another, I think Seattle's a great sports market. And I think you've watched them support the Mariners over the years that have been bad. Seahawks have great fans. Sounders have unbelievable fans, right? As far as soccer, I think what this is going to do for the Kraken, I think you're going to see the NBA back in Seattle.
And it feels like it could be two teams out west in Vegas and Seattle, the next destination for the NBA, because they're at 30 right now. And 32 is manageable. So how many teams are in the NFL? 32 teams. And I think there's two potential markets on the horizon. Seattle, you have to be feeling good because, they have a great track record of supporting their professional franchises. And everything else is in Vegas, so the NBA is the next logical thing to land there.
Yeah. All right, 505-246-0610. That's how to get in today. Your emails are already coming in this morning. Jeff at 610knml.com, JJ at 610knml.com. You can follow JJ, and I really suggest you do on the Twitter. It's _JJ Buck, and on the Facebook, the OD in the AM. When we come back, 3 transfers going out at New Mexico football, and a couple guys trying to make it in the National Football League. One you're certainly aware of. Another one, 28 years old. Figures it's time to maybe get out of school. It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Has that ball stolen. Jeremy Segura. Dribble, spin cycle, up and under move. What a pass. Wrap around pass. Harris, Legate, the long bomb, 3 ball. Oh, great steal by Quinteros, lays it up and scores. A whole little jump step in the... And look out, here comes Agbayosi, Crawford. That's blocked. Lansing says, get that out of here. Sister to sister, Marianne Lansing's going to go all the way. Turnaround.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Teton Saltis is going to try to be a pro, the offensive lineman who's now a former Lobo in Chandler, Arizona. He's going to work out there with some of the people who, that's what they do. They get these guys into the NFL. The Lobos are also going to see Tyson Dyer. You say, of course, Jeff, they're seniors, but with this year being what it was and granting the year of eligibility back, there were a lot of decisions to be made, and there's a lot of conversations that were made. Tyson Dyer announced yesterday on his Twitter that he is going to try to be a punter in the National Football League. He's 28 years old, Australian-born, and he's got a leg. Of course, there's one former Lobo who has got a job as a punter in the NFL and still playing. That's Corey Bojorquez with the Buffalo Bills. And Jason Sanders, the former kicker, is all pro with the Miami Dolphins and has had success. And Tyson Dyer is going to try to follow those footsteps as well. Tyson Dyer's got a booming leg, and that's a guy that's got an opportunity. That's a right place, right time, right situation thing. You probably don't get drafted. You get an invitation to a camp, and you go in and you beat somebody out in those situations.
It's also a situation for Dyer, just given his age and experience, it makes a ton of sense for him to jump. And it was also the conversation overall wasn't just as simple as, well, these guys could have opted out if they didn't want to play. No one was forcing them to play. Well, it wasn't a guarantee that the opportunity was still going to be there, whether you wanted to play or not. Because the Lobos are capped at 85 scholarships. So, yeah, they don't lose their eligibility as a collegiate athlete for this year, but it was never a guarantee at many of these schools that you're going to be able to come right back into said scholarship, just given the financial impact it's going to have. And we're seeing that where guys did take the field, did play, but aren't just all coming back, because the reality of the situation is a lot of these schools can't do that, even though the NCAA is granting them the eligibility. But also not handing these schools more money to keep these guys around.
Yeah, and for a place like UNM, there's only so much they can do, and I think that was made clear. Hell, when you saw Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin have this conversation early in the process at Wisconsin saying, look, we can't afford it. I mean, that's great that the NCAA is granting this year of eligibility back to these student athletes. However, we're not going to be able to honor that because it doesn't make financial sense. When you saw that go down at Wisconsin, I think you realize that was going to be the case most places, and that's the way it is. UNM now. Some guys are going to be able to come back. Some guys will. But it's going to be a case-by-case thing. And then you saw a couple of transfers. Jordan Kress is going to transfer, the wide receiver. A little bit of a surprise there. DB Michael Lovett is going to transfer, as well as a redshirt wide receiver, Jathan Washington. A little bit of a surprise on Kress, although I mean, nothing's super shocking. I think after 1 year of a new coach, when you're recruited by another coaching staff, you know, if you give it the year, either it's going to be for you or it's not, and you've got opportunities. I don't think there's anything drastic. I don't think there's anything to be alarmed about. I know people, whether it's just for effect or not, are gonna have their reaction to this. But to me, that's not a big deal.
No, Kress dealt with a lot last year. He had COVID over the summer, came into the season, suffered a foot injury. I mean, he was a solid player. Like, Jordan Kress is a guy you want to have in your team. He's explosive. He makes plays downfield. And it's a situation, too, you look at it, is he just going to try to get closer to home or just go somewhere else to finish? All these things that until he talks about it, you're not really sure. But you're right. It's not, oh, no, here we go. It's just the reality of the situation when you're talking about the seniors in this class and then other guys when the year's over. You know, you got 100 and some odd on the roster, and some are going to make a decision to try something else.
Well, I mean, to your point, Kress made an impact. Like, he led the Lobos in receiving yards. He led the Lobos in touchdowns receiving. He had 6 of them. He led the Lobos in catches. He had 28 of them back in 2019. And all those things that he went through are right. And, he makes a decision, and he'll go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go back to California somewhere, and do that. I don't think that's anything monumental. All right, we're coming off of a football season where, I mean, everything was bizarre. The Aggies are supposed to play in what, 5 weeks, JJ? We had Doug Martin on the show probably, what was signing day? Middle December, so coming up on a month ago now. And he was pretty certain that they were moving forward with their 3-game spring schedule, that they're going to play Dixie State, New Mexico Highlands, and Tarleton State. Dixie State and Tarleton are 2 of those teams that are going to form that new WAC, that FCS conference. And Highlands, of course, plays in the RMAC. I don't know where we are. I do know where we are. I don't know where we're going, although I think I do. We're at that point now for high school athletics where, I mean, something's got to happen any second. And I think all of us, and I see Josh shaking his head, are under the opinion that what's going to change. And it's so horrible. This is personally for our kids that have been holding on to this little last hope, this little last carrot, and here we are coming up, on the middle of January now, and the NMA is trying to put a schedule together, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to. And look, we can if you want to. My intent is not to go through the whole thing, but my feeling is our kids in our state should be able to play. I think there's a way safely to do it. Watch it in every other state, especially golf and cross country and some of the non-contact, even volleyball, for crying out loud. But I think basketball and everything else, what it's costing our kids, I think is borderline. We're getting to a point where I think it's insurmountable. But do you think we're going to see an Aggie football season? Is it worth? And I guess it's hard for us to sit here and determine, is it worth it? I'm going to tell you, I think it is. By the way, for New Mexico State to go, whether it's out of state, and hold a camp and play these 3 games that don't matter. There's no bowl games that they're playing for. There's no championship they're playing for. Just to go and play these 3 games. I'm going to tell you, I think it is, because the program hasn't done anything since December of 2019. And I think to get those guys out there, bump them together, to have some semblance of a program right now for Doug, I do think is important. And the fact that you put that spring schedule on the schedule, I think is important for them to follow through.
It's extended spring for them if they get a chance to play and then potentially even have some practices on the back end. And I agree, they need it as a program. Give those players something. You don't want to be away from the game for almost 2 years at that point in time if you say, oh, well, we're getting ready for next fall. So I agree with you with the importance for New Mexico State football. And I think it's something they're going to continue to push forward with, even if they have to do it down in El Paso, bus, practice, play games. I think they're going to do it because in football and basketball have taken a precedent. Now, I think there's still a ton of questions about everything else. And yesterday we started talking about baseball. Well, then you heard New Mexico State, what their volleyball coach was saying, like, we might play and not practice this season. Like, if our players want to play, we'll go play a schedule, but we might not even practice. Like, these are things that need to be answered. But I think as we all sit here, we know what the answer is going to be. More of the same.
Yeah, if you're New Mexico State, can you, like, if you're Michael Jordan, the volleyball coach at New Mexico State, can you get on a bus and go 40 minutes over into El Paso and practice at a high school gym? Come back and then play all, like, I understand what the quarantine rules are, right? If you cross the state border, you're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. So I imagine the girls quarantine, they stay in their room, they go back on a bus tomorrow and practice, come back, go back over to El Paso the next day, get on a plane and go play at Dixie State. Like can they, is that feasible? And I'm thinking the same concept for Aggie football. Can he take them over to a field in El Paso, and there's going to be facilities because it's not football season. And can he practice across the border, put him back on a bus, they go back to their student housing, and do it that way? Is that something that, I mean, I know the governor's office would frown on it, but legally, which I don't know legally, whatever that means anymore, is that something that you can do? You can't do that here. You can't run them across the border here, but in New Mexico State, they're 40 minutes away from being in Texas.
The answer is yes. And I think that's what they're going to do with the sports, is ultimately bust them in El Paso, get the job done, and then come back to Cruces. Because guess who's not quarantining? A women's basketball team. They stopped back in Albuquerque and then bounced to St. George, Utah, and I don't think anyone.
So that's the same concept, right? That's exactly the same concept.
Like, did you just leave your room and you didn't stay in there for 7 days?
Yeah. No, it's the same concept, right? New Mexico United plays in Colorado, buses back, practices, and then gets on a bus and goes to El Paso the next week. Same concept, is it not?
It is.
Even more so, they practiced in state. So I guess you could have camp if you can find a field, a high school field, whatever it happens to be, and maybe even UTEP's facilities, depending on what your relationship with UTEP is right now. All right, go over there. Now, I don't know if you can have weight training. Can you have weight training on campus in groups of 5? I imagine you can run them through your weight training, right, in groups of 5. Can you not do that? And put them on a bus, go play, you practice in El Paso, have your camp, and go back and forth every day. I mean, I know what I'm saying, and I know there's plenty of you who are sitting there, Jeff, it's just stupid, it's not worth it. I'm going to tell you, for that program, it probably is worth it at this point. Because to JJ's point, to be dormant for basically 2 calendar years for a program that was already struggling is going to be really, really hard to come back from. And then you're going to sit here in the fall and complain that they're not competitive. Well, they should drop football, Jeff. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're getting blued out. Well, really? Really? Because they're a full season behind everybody? Really? You're surprised. So to me, I'm looking now at here comes that spring schedule, and I'm finding any way that I can to get them on a bus and get them over there. And that's when I read Mike Jordan, with the volleyball coach, same concept. I mean, can't they go to a gym over there and practice and come back and eat and then travel and play all their games on the road?
Yeah, and it's what is going on right now. I think it's what's going to continue the rest of this season for the programs in this state. And at some point, you might even say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're following this model, and y'all are going to have to probably come in here and shut us down if you don't like it. Or actually come to the table and have a legitimate conversation about how this can work and we can do this safely.
At some point, I know it's been, nope, these are the rules, these are the rules, these are the rules. I mean, I dealt with it at a very limited level, but I know it's going on at a much bigger level. At some point, there's got to be a legitimate conversation about it. 505-246-0610. We'll go to the phones when we come back. Love your thoughts on that. What do you think? I mean, is it from your perspective, even if you're not an Aggie fan, understanding where the program is it worth it for that program to do whatever they got to do to have some sort of a 3-game spring schedule in football? It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM at AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili, breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Ramos, rise and fire. He's fouled.
He used to coach for Del Norte. And
Here's Voss all the way with the finish. He'll get the behind the back of the dribble. Trying to go up with the right hand. He changed hands in midair and Hotnet sent it away. Houston doing a really good job denying Chavez. DC hasn't got the ball. Oh, Yeku. Oh. Working against Watson. Oh, look at the spin move.
Ball's loose. DJ Bustos brings it up. Bars Tompkins, alley-oop. How about it? That was redunculous.
Turnover. Cable to the big fella. Might try to jam one home.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
So how would you handle it if you're the AD? I would do what Mario's doing. I would find a way to see it out and put my team on a bus and find a facility in El Paso. Yeah, we got to rent that, but at least we can come back and they live on campus. And because I'm 40 minutes away from the state line, or at least less than 40 minutes away from the state line, but 40 minutes away from El Paso. And to me, it's worth it to play this spring football season because you've got these student athletes who, and I had this conversation with athletic directors, and we're going to get to the phones here in a second. But JJ, I had this conversation with a number of athletic directors throughout the fall and really through the summer. How many times can you look these young people in the eye and tell them, all right, we're going to play, we're delaying it, but we're going to play, we're going to play, we're going to play. And then you come back to them, and at some point, who's looking them in the eye and saying, yeah, we're shutting you down? And you've made these promises, you made these good faith promises, and maybe you can sit here now and say they shouldn't have been promises, and in hindsight's 2020. But fine, call them plans. How long can you keep stringing these young men and women along before at some point you lose them completely? And that doesn't mean just lose them, from your university, but what you're doing to them. I mean, these are all individuals who are going to school, doing the right thing, doing the right. And the biggest thing here, and this goes to our high school athletes as well. They're all, and I say all, 90-something% of them are doing the right thing. They're doing it the right way, and there is no payoff for them. There is no reward for doing it the right way. And at some point, we're going to lose them as far as doing them the right way.
I agree with that. It's a situation that there's not one clean way to do it. I think just getting them out there, allowing them to play, taking the steps forward, it should be. I don't think anything's easy, but it should be able, like when you look at Division I athletes and the amount of testing that they're undergoing, you should be able to get going in that regard. And then for high school sports, I'm just still, my mind is still blown that we didn't even see like the outdoor stuff or just a chance, track and field, cross country, just events like that.
Golf
happen in the fall. Golf, just take a step forward because it's still hard when you take a step back overall. We've been distracted by a lot of other stuff, but it hasn't gone away. but at some point you're going to have to figure out what is the right way to do this. And we've had all this time, and being in the same spot, I know just has so many people frustrated, going, okay, if I can't do it, something, I understand it, but the kids, why not them yet?
Yeah. Paul, good morning. Thank you for holding. You are on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Good day, Paul.
How are you guys doing this morning?
Good. How you doing, Paul?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's up?
My main thing that bothers me the most about this whole deal with states, in particular New Mexico, California, and California may be a little worse off case-wise, but when you're looking at cases, I mean, you just look at our neighbor in Texas. At 29 million people, we have 2.1 million people, and you go by the case count. We're at 7.2%, and Texas is at 6.1%. And we're not able to do, they've been doing sports. I was in Texas over the summer, in the fall, and I watched them playing football with a limited amount of people in the stand. Why can't they have stuff where nobody's there? And then especially collegiate sports, these guys are already on virtual school. Why in the world would they not be able to just, quarantine them? They get the gym. Nobody else gets to go in there. They're the ones in there. And if they have women's basketball, they have an auxiliary gym. They can go in those gyms. They can practice. I don't agree with not having sports, and I'm with JJ on the whole thing with the fall sports. Anything outdoors, I mean, that to me is a little crazy. I mean, I don't like the fear mongering and saying that you can't go outside without a mask on. If I'm the only one outside and nobody's within, a couple miles of me, I just don't see how, if it's in our air, everybody's going to get it. And I've had family members that have had it and gotten better. I haven't had anybody that I know that has died. And deaths, my whole thing, don't get me wrong, it's a real thing. It does harm people. But at the same time, you're not even looking at the amount of actual people that are contracting this. It's not a whole lot different on the contraction part of cases than the flu.
Yeah, Paul.
And I really think they need to let the sports get back to it. I mean, I have two, and you do too, Jeff. I have a high school freshman and sophomore that lost an entire school year.
I know.
And
You're not wrong.
To move, I've had this conversation before. I'm still in the works to move to Texas.
We're having a conversation
the job that
too.
I'm trying to get is a little further out. So,
all right, don't be a stranger, Paul.
Back in school.
Yeah, no, they got to get back in school. I appreciate the call. So, JJ, a couple things there, and the difference that I'm told between New Mexico and New Mexico and Texas on this is we have way fewer ER beds. The capacity in our ER, our hospital system is percentage-wise way lower. What he said in regards to the positivity rate, I've said, look, I was over in Texas for that week for the New Mexico Bowl. I watched what's going on there. I've told you this. I never once felt threatened. They had 4 playoff games on Christmas Eve. They're moving. They're moving around, and it felt responsibly. JJ, every store I went into, everybody's wearing masks. Went to a restaurant, wore a mask, sat down, ate, got up. Hand sanitizing anywhere. We ran the game with the utmost protocol. Never felt threatened. The positivity rates in those states, in our state, if we were dramatically lower than all these states that are allowing things to happen, you could sit here and say, man, look what we're doing. It's working. That's why we're doing. To Paul's point, we're not dramatically lower. And we're down, and I know Josh has had this conversation. We're talking about our kids and sports right now. And we're going to get the call, it doesn't matter. And it kind of does. If you've got a kid and you see what it's doing to them, I mean, we're 10 months into this thing, and I'm not telling you there's got to be an expiration on this, but there's got to be a way, and there's models in other states to allow our kids to go and do these activities and do them safely. And I think there is.
And at this point in time, too, as we start to get the vaccines out there, I think teachers should be up there on that list if you want to talk about getting kids back to school. And then the decisions from there of, okay, getting back to school, then athletics factoring in, and start getting that ball moving.
So I was having this conversation with my mom yesterday, who's a lifelong educator at LA Unified Schools. And so the teachers are on the vaccine, but the kids aren't. So we're not vaccinating anybody under 16. So the kids can't go back to school, but we're vaccinating all the teachers, which, by the way, we should. But why are we vaccinating the teachers if the kids aren't going to be able to go back to school? Like, right? It was okay. All the teachers are getting back. They're in the next group. Absolutely, that's great. Good sign. But no, the kids can't go back to school until they're vaccinated. What are we doing? Bruin James, you're up next on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hello, James.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on. Hey, I had something else I was going to tell you, but since you guys are talking about this, it kind of hits home with me with my cousin back home. I'm from the Mojave Reservation in Needles, California.
Yeah.
And my cousin's, she plays women's girls basketball, and she's outstanding. But right now, California is shut down. But we live in the tri-state area with Nevada and Arizona on the other side of the Colorado River.
Yep.
And the thing is, Arizona and Nevada, they're having travel ball. So. Yeah. Me and her were talking, and she was thinking about transferring. I said, you know, babe, you got to do what's best for your, because she's looking at scholarships, and I told her, I said, look, you got to do what's best for you, if you have to transfer to Nevada, find a school. If you have to transfer to Arizona, find a school, transfer. Those states are open, Nevada and Arizona, but California is still closed. So, it's weird. Because you go back there and you'll be in California, and then you go to Arizona, and it's like wide open. It's like the Wild West. Like you can go to a restaurant, you can eat, you can do all that. It's totally different. So.
And the California numbers.
I hear what you're saying when you went to Texas and did all that. It's like you go back and everybody's playing basketball and everybody's doing this and going to a restaurant. It's a totally different. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, and their numbers aren't surging.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked about California and Arizona quarterbacks. Well, I mean California and Texas quarterbacks.
Texas.
Sorry, I apologize. But hey, has any quarterback from Texas going to be the host of Jeopardy? Hell no. Out of here.
California.
Bruin James. Go Bruins, baby.
See you, James. And his point on the whole thing, right? California's closed and they're surging. Nevada and those states aren't totally open. Nobody's yelling open up and as James said, the Wild Wild West. Nobody's saying that, okay? What I'm saying, and I hear a lot of you saying, and JJ, I know you're saying the same thing. For our kids, there's a way to do it. Now there's a model. There's models out there. There's 40-something states in the union who are having athletics, allowing their kids to grow, get scholarships, compete, just all of the benefits of what athletics does. There's a model. And there's not been a surge. Oh, yeah, there's a case here and there's a case there. Yeah, you're right. Just like there is in every aspect of life right now. But it's at a lower rate, and there's a way. There is a model. It's time to open up and let our kids participate in sports the back end of the school year. It just is. And we're going into a legislative session, and I know the tension's going to be diverted, and we've got everything that's going on in Washington, and this is a back burner issue, and it shouldn't be because it's for our kids. Not just because I have a kid. Like I'm super more vested because I'm seeing it firsthand. I'll guarantee you that. I'll give you that. I understand that. But that it doesn't make it wrong. And you've got kids and you're sitting there with your kids right now. Like we're at a point now, the middle of January, to allow these kids to have a season here in the spring. There are models around the country, ways to do it the right way. There just are. And it's time to let them go.
As we start moving forward, like it's something that it should be schools, which then rolls the ball into athletics, because as important as athletics are to so many kids, so is just getting to school. for so many others. And it's like I'm in a situation where I'm lucky enough to where I don't need things to open up in terms of, my life right now. It's like I'm thankful that we're able to move ahead. My wife works in healthcare. So believe me, when I'm talking about moving forward, my wife has treated COVID positive patients. We've dealt with that the last year. So I know what it's like. I know the anxiety of this situation. So I'm not just sitting here saying, I believe it. No, we've lived it. We've had these conversations and what it's like when you come home after a day like that. But given everything that she's gone through in her job and what we're seeing moving forward, it's all right, what's the step? Like there's got to be that step that now we've done all this. How do we safely start moving forward? And it's get teachers in position to be safe and then start getting the kids back to what they do schooling wise and then get the ball rolling with athletics.
I want to entertain this conversation. And I don't normally tell you, here's what I want to hear. Save the, it's just sports, Jeff, it doesn't matter. Because it's expired. This is about our kids and our mental health of our kids and the well-being of our kids. Save the, it's just sports and there's bigger issues going on. Yeah, there are bigger issues going on. And this is an issue too. What's a bigger issue than the wellness of our kids? It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610 Sports Animal.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Dorian over. Did he get in?
Yeah, they got in.
Touchdown, Dorian Lewis.
Seconds to play. Benavides still looking up the middle. It's intercepted. It's picked off by Freddie Anaya, and Roswell's season will end perfect.
Second quarter, 2nd and 4 for Socorro at the whole 44-yard line. McDaniel trying, good block by Hicks. First down and more, 30, 25, 20. McDaniel might be gone. Touchdown.
Wow.
Touchdown for Michael McDaniel.
It's 40 seconds this year. It's not like 25 like it used to be.
He laterals it back. What a play by Hightower. Pitch.
Looked like somebody moved a little bit early. Hicks, the play fake double move. He's got his receiver wide open. Caught. One man to beat. Touchdown. Touchdown to number 17, Nathaniel.
Third and 6. Big defensive play coming up here. Little trickery to Reese. See you later. Touchdown. They went for the deep ball to Reese.
To the right, single receiver split to the left. Play fake, head up off the middle, got some room. 50, 45, 40, has one man to beat. 30, 25, 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Hope.
Wow.
On a
Option again, he'll keep it. Now he'll pitch it. Comes out to the 30, 25, 20, up the sideline. Still inbounds, into the end zone. Let's see.
Touchdown.
Touchdown, Portel.
The outside of running an out route. Davis in a play action, looking. He's going to go back to Lewis, and Lewis makes a cut, and Lewis still on his feet. Dorian Lewis is in for a touchdown. Davis back to toss, and he's got all day. It's one miss, guy. Can he get it there? Davison to Luke Weissong.
Hey, we told you he
touchdown.
could spin that football, and that was a throw right there. I know he's got the wind in his back, but
Opening night of the National Hockey League. JJ, they're going with retro jerseys. All the teams are. Some are really cool. The Kings are wearing the purple and gold, but they're wearing the purple and gold with the Wayne Gretzky era Kings. So instead of that, just that crown, which to me is one of the greatest logos in the history of sports. Just that old. Now I know it's busy, and if you look at the last 2 decades, teams have gone to much more sleek logos that are easier to sew and put on merch, but they're going with the purple and gold Laker color with the Gretzky era Kings on it. But some of the retro jerseys are really cool. Now, it's hard to go retro when you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, and retro doesn't mean that far back. But there's some cool stuff on there. I didn't see if the Rockies are the Avalanche wearing Quebec Nordique stuff? Is that what they're going to do? What are they going to do?
They are.
Are they? That's cool.
Yeah, so it's the Avalanche colors, but the Nordique logo that they're using, which.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's cool.
It's great. It's fantastic. But it's also a situation if you're a Nordique fan, if you grew up in that,
pisses you off.
Is that like salt in the wound when you see that logo being used and like, oh, they took the team from us. But the jerseys are fire. It's home runs across the board when you look at the logos, the color schemes. Gonna sell jerseys like crazy to NHL fans. I think it's great, and it's a really good brand line to go into the season with.
Yeah,
we always see alternate jerseys, we see all this other stuff, but like every team has one, and there's a couple you're just like, okay, but most of them are 2 thumbs up.
Well, I love that the Carolina Hurricanes are wearing the old Hartford Whalers jerseys, right? The home white. The Whalers jersey. The Hartford Whalers are like a legendary thing up there. They're credited with the launch of ESPN because it was basically to show Hartford Whalers highlights late in the night and old Hartford Whalers games when they moved down. Did you see the Calgary Flames? So it's got a horse head, which was the Flames' initial 3rd jersey, and the first time Calgary didn't wear the showcase Flaming C. So it's got like a flaming horse head for the Calgary Flames, which is, in your words, straight fire, because it absolutely is. Check them out. But the retro, and you got hockey. You got hockey back tonight if that's your thing, and take a look at it because there's a little bit more for you to watch. It's the opening drive. Jeff Siembieda, JJ Buck, and Mike is produced on the radio side. Josh on ProView Networks. Born's in. Here's the reason, Jeffrey. Children have been shown to be so low COVID risk that they have been put at the very back of the vaccine queue. It's probably going to be fall before we're sticking needles in their arms. So that raises the question, why aren't the schools already open? Look, I understand why people under 16 are at the bye. I get the whole research. Just to show me the logic. If schools aren't going to be open because until they're vaccinated, and they're not going to be vaccinated until the end, so obviously schools aren't going to be open until the fall then the hurry to get teachers vaccinated almost seems, okay, that's great, but what are we doing if there's not going to be any schools open for them to go to? Tell me what I'm missing there.
I can't.
There's got to be something, right? Look, I get it. I understand why, and I agree with it, but follow me on the logic train. Harold says, is Lobo volleyball going to happen next week? I know college volleyball is allowed to start non-conference games next week, and one schedule I've seen has Lobo volleyball opening Mountain West play at Dream Style against Nevada in 3 weeks. I'm assuming if the Mountain West Conference says we're playing, then head coach Tom Paul Glaser has no choice but to get them ready, right? I've heard nothing about Lobo volleyball. Can they go without practicing? And again, here we are. Can they practice 5 at a time? He doesn't have a border 40 minutes away to go to another state where he can go practice. New Mexico State does. Like, if you're finally looking for an advantage for New Mexico State over New Mexico, they've got another state 40 minutes away. They can go to another country and practice, for crying out loud. They can go to Texas and find a gym and practice. If you're finally, there you go. Finally, New Mexico State's got a competitive advantage over New Mexico in something. I don't know. Harold, I don't know the answer. But yeah, we're at that point. And I would urge the governor's office at this point, and I get it, and you've got you don't want to deal with it. The last thing they want to deal with again, JJ, and they've been dealing with this, is intercollegiate athletics. We've got our rules, and here they are, but rules have to evolve. And I'm just telling you, this is one of those things, if they deal with it one time, they don't have to deal with it again. There's models now. And you've got all the experts from NMAA to New Mexico to New Mexico State have all come to them and said, here's how we're going to do it. They just need to okay it. They just need to, because
1 minute.
With all due respect, and I respect what the governor's office is doing to protect us from this virus, I do. I'm watching it happen in almost every other state in the union and happen with a high degree of success and in most cases a lower positivity rate. JJ, it's time to let our kids play. It's time. I'm not saying go be reckless. I'm not saying pack the building. I'm not saying any of that. But it's time to allow our student athletes to practice and participate. It's done elsewhere. There's models, and it's done successfully. Listen to you if you got a differing opinion. 505-246-0610, 888-922-0610. Coming up, JJ, what do you do with your boy James Harden? It's not fixable, he says, on the opening drive. Houston's got all kinds of problems. Quarterback, star basketball player. Thought it was a nice town. Isn't that what everybody told me? It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
To create space, he gives it off to Rivas for the three, and he buries it.
Could be coming in soon. Double pick set for Avalos. Goes to the right. Avalos puts it up high. Window. Scores it as foul.
Right here by Lewis all the way, coast to coast, and finish. What a...
Around the screen. Against White. Step back. It's blocked. JB with the block.
In transition, ahead to hit on for the two-hand hammer.
Left to go. They've got a shot. They have a chance, and it's put up, and it's good. What a three that is by Jalen.
Hito puts it up. Rebound Cowboys. Right side David Hall. Thank you very much. Here come the Cowboys. Domina Lovato lays it up. Missed it. Hey, how about it? Thank you, Lusses. Thank you very much, Raquan Mitchell. Clock at 6. They get it. Barnes
I'm really, doing everything that I can. This situation is crazy. It's something that I don't think can be fixed. So, thanks.
James Harden, Houston Rockets. making a lot of money. Wanted security, got security, got a long-term deal, $42-ish million a year. That's what long-term deals are, man. You want security, they got to work both ways, right? You get paid, they got to pay you whether they like you or not. Sometimes you might have to stay there whether you like them or not. And now it can't be fixed, according to him. They're 3-6 off to a bad start, and you got a problem in Houston. What's up, y'all? It's the opening drive at 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Jeff, JJ, Micah, and Josh. So JJ, he is 31 years old. I still think he's got a lot of game. He's a dynamic scorer, a terrific scorer. Hasn't won anything in the NBA as far as at a team level, at a championship level. Hadn't been there. They lose again last night, 117-100. They lose a lot. His contract is expensive. They're not going to give him away. They're going to want a big value in return. You talked about it all the time. You don't get value when it's something like this. This isn't the Deshaun Watson situation where he's 24 years old. He's not on a huge contract, and everybody in the league is going to want him. This is... You're going to have to find a niche, and what are you willing to take for him? What do you do now? Because Houston has been trying to make this thing work. Let's get back in there. They're not very good. And superstars, when they hit their 30s, want to be on contending teams, and they're not.
First off, James, it's not very good because of you. You started this situation. You've handled it poorly from the jump. The thing is, there's not a contender that's trading for James Harden right now because of what you would have to give up to acquire James Harden. I don't know if it works. There's a couple scenarios that are interesting, which involve, a 3-team deal. Maybe it's Philadelphia moving on from Ben Simmons, getting another team involved to start matching up contracts. And then he goes to Philadelphia to play with Embiid and Daryl Morey, who's in the front office now of the 76ers, who built that team around James Harden in Houston. And everyone says, well, he knows him. He knows what it takes. A scenario that could really pick up steam over the next couple weeks could be the Brooklyn Nets. And it could be the fact that Nets are just straight up done with Kyrie Irving as well. Because we want to talk about someone that's having a worse time than James Harden. That's Kyrie Irving, because no one has any idea what is going on with him. And I think that's something that if Kyrie is still away from this team in 2-3 weeks,
which he may be,
which he possibly could be, then James Harden could find his way to Brooklyn and playing with Kevin Durant. Other than that, there's not legit contenders, let alone playoff teams, I think are going to move a ton for him. And it could be a situation where, all right, James Harden, you went out of Houston, you're going to go somewhere to just play. Like it's going to end up being back in Oklahoma City, just a team like that has a ton of assets and maybe just wants to make a splashy move as they continue to move forward. But in terms of a legitimate contender, there is not a landing spot right now for James Harden.
So back me out of the Brooklyn situation, because I honestly, I've seen it a bunch. I don't think I understand how it works, because I don't think it does. How does he end up in Brooklyn if Kyrie doesn't work there? What are they sending? What do you want? How are you making it work in Brooklyn?
You're pretty much just trading Kyrie Irving for James Harden.
But if you're Houston, why are you taking Kyrie Irving? You're trading headache for probably bigger headache.
It's just about, at that point in time, moving contracts and thinking forward and saying, all right, we bring in Kyrie. If we sit on him, what's the next move? Because that's a frustrating thing with both these dudes. Like, they're so good at basketball. Like, when they're on, they are game changers. And if you put Kyrie and KD is a championship level basketball team, but Kyrie's not there. James Harden and KD would be a championship level basketball team. Yes, you're right. It's headache for headache, but it's just, how do we start moving forward in these situations?
So how is bringing in Kyrie, who was unhappy playing with LeBron James and now seemingly unhappy playing with Kevin Durant, moving forward, bringing him into a Houston roster that doesn't have any of that? I guess the only answer you could tell me is, well, he's the guy, but that's fine. He's the guy on a team that's going where? Fighting for the 8th spot and to get into the playoffs, to get beat by the Lakers?
It's only as what makes sense, like salaries.
Yeah, but so it's got to be more than salaries to choose moving forward. To me, I want no part of it.
You can't make a trade if the salaries don't match up. And if you're Houston, at some point, you're going to have to realize that James Harden's done. And whether we think he has a bad attitude or not, so be it. Like, he's done in Houston. So you have to figure out, what are we moving? And then it's chess. It's, all right, this deal might not make us great right now, but what are the 2 to 3 moves after that? And there's very few deals out there that work when we're talking about that magnitude of salary. So it's not a great deal in terms of, oh, we feel great about bringing in Kyrie. It's just ultimately, what are the next moves for these franchises with 2 guys that are stuck in the mud right now? And then you start talking about 3-team deals. Who else could you get involved? Or it could just become a situation where neither of these guys play. Then you have a battle for their salaries between the teams and the players saying, well, we're not going to play you if you don't want to take the court. And then it just gets messy and it will be a disaster. It ain't good for either of these guys right now.
All right, so I get the salary thing. I absolutely understand it's got to be salary. They got to match. So Kyrie comes in making almost $32 million a year. If he don't want to play basketball, why would you trade for that guy? Just to get rid of James Harden? Okay, I got rid of that headache. Oh, my goodness, look what we got coming in now. A guy who didn't want to be anywhere. He likes making the money. He loves taking the paychecks. Like to me, the benefit of having Kyrie Irving, if he's not going to play basketball at a high level, is what?
It's chess. There's a lot of, it's like, why do
sometimes
people
you make a bad move?
$100 Trevor Ariza and they sit out? It's because it's the move after that, Jeff. It's not about you're bringing in Kyrie Irving to play. It's ultimately just moving on. And the question that you ask yourself if you're one of these teams, what is the value of said player? Like right now, it's an absolute disaster, and it's a headache for both. But if people in that league still like 1 or 2 of these guys, you're thinking long term. You're not thinking you're bringing in Kyrie Irving. You're competing right now. It's who are we going to sit on?
Okay.
James Harden or Kyrie Irving? Who's more valuable?
Fair enough. So think 2 moves ahead. Where's Kyrie going? What are you doing with Kyrie? You're thinking we're going to move him to Seattle to start their new franchise in 2 years? Are we moving him to Orlando? And if that's the case, why wouldn't those teams jump in now if they want him and get him without having to play this ridiculous game? I just, to me, the Kyrie thing, the longer it goes on, the less attractive and valuable he gets. At least James Harden's playing basketball right now.
It's one where there's few situations in which it's a team for team trade when it comes to these guys. Just the salary rise. It's just the reality of it. When you have to match salaries, be within 10% in the NBA. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's just a scenario out there of how do you move on from one headache. Yeah, it's headache for headache, but then you start thinking, all right, what's next? What is the value? I think Kyrie's value is dropping dramatically. The only place that works for him at this moment in time is the team he signed with, put together, Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. But he's a dude that.
What's his issue?
Man, I don't know.
What's his
it doesn't
issue
make
right
any
now?
sense. And he doesn't talk to anybody. And then he gets mad when people start assuming things. Well, you don't want to talk to us. You don't think the media is worth your time. But then you get upset when stories are written about you, when people are assuming things, when people just go off of what you put out there. And so you're away from basketball, but then I guess you're at a family get together, maybe not. It was friends. Who knows? It's like James Harden 2.0 again in terms of being somewhere massless, out of the protocol, etc. It's a disaster because that basketball team could be very good with those 2 together, and it's not going to be because Kyrie doesn't want to play basketball, and if he comes back, they're not going to have the team chemistry. It's going to be what we saw happen with the Clippers last year.
Look, I have no doubt Kyrie's a bright young man. I don't. I think he's just cerebral. He went to Duke. He's a bright guy. He's also a flat earther. He's also a guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And to your point, he's above talking to the media. So nobody's supposed, and I get it. Like it's a burden talking to the media at times, but then they write things and then he loses his mind. Like sometimes these guys who think they're smarter than everybody isolate themselves to a point where it's to their own detriment. And I think that's what's going on here. Whether he was at these parties or these clubs or these family gatherings without a mask, whatever. At some point, and this goes back, we've had this conversation about countless people. If you're part of the NBA, you got to play by the rules. They are your employer. The Brooklyn Nets are your employer. You sure like getting that $32 million a year, don't you? And right now he's getting it and he's not playing. Like is he gone for what? What is the leave that he is on right now? Because they're talking about he may not be back this week. He may not be back for 2 weeks. He was at a family birthday party. There's no belief he'll return this week. He's been ruled out for his 4th straight game. They're using COVID procedures. Well, he can keep using COVID procedures and keep getting paid all he wants. At some point, the man's got to go to work, doesn't he?
Well, he's away for personal reasons and then wouldn't return because of the quarantine that he'd have to go through.
At some point, the man's got to go to work, doesn't he?
Or at least also tell his employer what's going on, why he doesn't want to play basketball right now. Be a good step.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how you get out of that. And to me, and I understand. Believe me, I'm please don't think I'm as ignorant as maybe you do on having to match salaries in regards for trading in the NBA. I'm well aware of that. I just give me 7 dudes to match that salary for James Harden as opposed to taking on that one headache. I don't want it. I just don't. I'm dealing with one headache. And in chess, sometimes you make a move and you just go, oh, I just left my queen wide open, right? I mean, you make bad moves in chess too. To me, that guy didn't want to be anywhere. Yeah, I got an unhappy guy, but at least I got an unhappy guy. I know what I'm dealing with.
Taking the court.
To me, right, and he's playing. To me, Kyrie is a way bigger headache than James Harden is. At least I know what James Harden's issues are. Kyrie, I have no idea. I don't think anybody does. Like if you pick your level of misery, which one do you want? Don't you want James Harden?
The dude who's at least showing up to work and playing basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with you, and I don't. There's not an easy out for the Kyrie situation. It would be him showing up and playing basketball with Kevin Durant and James Harden. It's one that sometimes it's just time. And has James Harden handled it well this offseason? He hasn't. But it's ran its course in Houston, and now they have to figure out what's fair value. And for Harden, I'm sure he has a no trade clause, so that's going to be challenging in that contract. It's all right, if you want out of Houston, it doesn't mean you're going to a contender this year.
Philly works for me. Like Philly basketball wise works for me. And again, how you make that trade work. But where else does it work? And to your point, I think it works in Brooklyn without Kyrie. Put him on another roster. Portland? Like where else does it work? Him instead of Paul George in LA with Kawhi?
I don't think so, because I think that was a big reason why Kawhi went to the Clippers was
Paul
George.
All right, so where does it work?
All right.
Basketball-wise, where's the right spot?
At a true contender level, I think Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's the only one where it's like, all right, this team could win their conference, could play in a conference final. Other places, it would just be maybe a playoff team, but not necessarily a team right now that you feel could compete for an NBA title. And heck, if speaking of teams that aren't winning, man, if the Denver Nuggets keep playing like this, they might just be willing to throw Michael Porter Jr. and stuff out there to make a big move.
Well, then there you go. All right, 505-246-0610. We'll talk to you about it when we come back. Emails come in, jeff@610knml.com, jj@610knml.com. I know home security is a big decision. It's what do you do? With whom do you work? And do you want to spend the money? And I would suggest you call IPS, International Protective Service. International Protective Service has protected my home for a lot of years. I see the officer outside on a regular basis. They come by every single day. They can protect your home, protect your business, and stop break-ins before they happen. And when you think about it, it's like an insurance policy on your home. And then you'll say, well, I already have an insurance policy. Yeah, but you don't want to use that one. You don't want to do after the effect. Don't let something bad happen. Call Aaron and see what IPS can do for you. They've got highly trained officers, many former law enforcement, many former military, and their job is to protect what's important to you, whether it's your business or whether it's your home. And think of it like insurance. I get it. You don't want to pay for it, but you don't want the consequence either. And IPS has given us peace of mind. If you go out of town, They protect your home. They pick up the newspaper. They pick up the mail. Garbage cans rolled to the curb and back on garbage day. Just give your home that lived-in look. They do a full perimeter search every day. And if your alarm goes off, they respond within 5 to 7 minutes with trained security officers, armed officers. Call IPS, protect what's important to you. There's no long-term contracts. I think you're going to like what they have to say, and you're going to join the many of us who trust IPS to protect what's important. 505-897-2420 is the number. 505-897-2420 or visit ipsglobal.com.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Moreno extra pass, and Watson. Out with it, Gallegos, and he's gonna run all the way. Window, yes! Able to get out of it. How did he find Battle? It's to Cunningham, and it...
I mean, Ramos' hand. And
Ramos puts it up, beats the buzzer!
Boy, Jefferson wide open.
Jefferson to Daraji! Into Watson with the jam!
Another steal by Davina Lovato, and here comes Agbaiosi. Lob, two-hand hammer. You knew that was coming. The lob tagged by Osi, the one-hand hammer.
Put up. And a drive from Parham.
Get a little closer.
Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass.
Here's what he'll
just shoot it.
He's going to go all the way.
He's going to fire at the buzzer, and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much.
In the district, inside, fly, Eagles!
Chavez uses some athleticism, and then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds, and look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer! Here's Ian Chavez, the sharpshooter, got it.
Said that any better. He answered the question.
On
got
a
another
steal
one.
at the buzzer! Back to back for Chavez.
To the paint. Medina from the volleyball lines. Medina wants another one from deep. Oh, he wants 10. Give him 10!
Lewis finds Watson. He's going to finish. One-handed slam. Vista, but just all the different scenarios we could see potentially play out ahead of the state tournament.
Melfi can cash it in. He's got some protection. Deep ball. Erickson's open. Touchdown, Monarchs.
All right, I've asked you a couple of questions today. And JJ and I have been in a number of places. We're talking about the NBA and James Harden and Kyrie Irving and what do you do. We spent some time earlier today talking about sports in this state, and I think our feeling is it's time to figure out how to let our kids play and collegiate athletics play. There's models all over the country that it's working, and let our kids go back and compete in a safe manner. It's time. It's happening in Texas and Arizona and Nevada and Utah and Colorado, and there are models. And I think to be able to salvage some of this athletic season, I think is paramount. Plus, New Mexico State and New Mexico being able to play. It's the opening drive. Jeff, JJ, Micah, and Josh. JJ asked you, what am I missing? And AC said, common sense, Jeff. What you're missing is common sense. There is no common sense coming from Santa Fe. They've done nothing but kill the state. Way to go. And I don't, again, I understand why things have happened. There's got to be an evolution. There has got to be a progression. Things can't. We've been stagnant on this with athletics for. It's just athletics, and this is how it's going to be. And damn it, I've dealt with it and no more. And I think that is so incredibly detrimental. And I think I know you do too. And I think that's where most of our listeners are.
Yeah, and it's one that if you get the ball rolling with athletics, right? They say this is the next step for kids. Well, it would be a no-brainer that school would be a part of that, right? How do we get kids back to school, and then how do we get them to do activities across the board, whether it's you band class outside, so all the wind instruments are 10 feet away from each other, like things like that. Like get that ball rolling. And like I said, I have a wife who works in healthcare, so this isn't coming from a bleep it. I don't just go on, that type of standpoint. I've dealt with it for a year of that anxiety and know what it's like when she comes home from work and she's like, oh yeah, I saw COVID people today, and you're just like, fingers crossed, do all you can precaution wise, but it's one that you've also looked around and seen the toll that it has taken on kids. And like you said, athletics are important. They matter. Yeah. Whether we're talking about the NBA and James Harden or high school basketball. And part of that process for high school athletics, for athletics in the state of New Mexico, is also figuring out the next step overall. Like collegiate athletics, yeah, they can get it done, man. Those student athletes, they can do online school, they can go, but it's a lot harder. It's different for younger kids in all this, and I think everyone just wants to see some positivity moving forward for student athletes.
All right, Lenny, good morning. Yesterday we got a call. Where's Lenny? We haven't heard from Lenny in a while. Bat signal went out. Hello, Leonard. How are you living?
Good. Hope you guys had a good holiday.
You too.
So let's go first with Kyrie Irving. The Nets news going in,
Jared,
what kind of a nutcase he was from his prior teams.
Mm-hmm.
And they rolled the dice on him. So if he's taking off for social injustices from the Capitol last week, I haven't heard a word out of his mouth about it.
Because he doesn't talk to anybody.
Right. But if you're going to be taking off and you're the only NBA player to do it, and you're doing it for a cause that happened last week, what are you doing about it? Who are you talking to? Who are you meeting with?
Yeah. Look, he's
to
smarter
try to
than you,
drive
man.
change, just even in New York City,
Yeah.
where you had the mayor and his wife dancing in Times Square by themselves while the ball dropped.
Right.
Okay. Then we get with James Harden, who just killed his trade value yesterday.
Yeah.
And
How are they
basically
supposed to move him?
undermined the team.
Yeah, that'll happen too. That's what he's going to do. He's going to cut them a big check.
I mean, Harden just basically just took the knees out from Houston to do a trade.
He did. He absolutely did. I mean, because everybody knows that they've got to do something, and so here come the lowball offers. And people are going to say, what's different about that than the quarterback with the Texans, Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson doesn't have a $32 million a year or $42 million a year deal. And Deshaun Watson's 24, and he's in his prime, and he's playing well, and doesn't have a history of this.
And with the Nets, even if when Kyrie does come back, we got to see what happens with the party, if he's going to be out 3 games or 6 games. You know, the Nets have been paying him for his personal time off. They're so afraid to do anything with him, they're just letting him take off with full pay. Very few players are going to get away with that.
I want that.
But they need to make a trade right now because with losing Spencer Dinwiddie for the season, they're lacking a guard, even with Karis LeVert. So I would go after Devonta Graham from the Charlotte Hornets, who lost his starting spot to Ball. And is a good young guard that could go seamlessly into their rotation.
All right.
But they're not going to win without Kyrie. And what team is going to trade for Harden? Like, if I'm the Knicks, I would go up to Washington right now and go, I'll give you 4 number 1s for Beal and 2 players.
4 number 1s?
Well, I mean, you gave up 3 number 1s for Drew Holiday.
How'd that work?
It's not, but would you rather have Drew Holiday or Bradley Beal?
You don't know if it hasn't worked yet. They've played 8 games in Milwaukee.
All right, how's that work?
No, but I'm just saying, who's a better player overall, Holiday or Beal?
I like Bradley Beal.
Okay, so if you're getting 3 for Drew, you would think you're going to get 4 or 3 and 3 players for Beal.
Or did they overpay?
They overpaid.
I mean, did they reset the market, or did they overpay?
The Knicks have 7 number 1s in the next 5 years.
Right.
They're not going to sign all of them. The only way they're going to get a named player to come in to put with Randall is to do a big trade. Because right now it looks like half the team is from the University of Kentucky.
Then maybe they should go get Harden. Give up your 4. I mean, I know the salaries aren't going to match.
Harden in New York, that won't work. Because I think wherever Harden goes to, he's so toxic, no one as a big free agent will want to come and play with him. Because he wants to control the whole narrative for the team.
Okay. All right, man. Good to hear you. And don't be a stranger.
You guys have a good one.
What do you think?
Well, I don't think Washington's intent on trading Bradley Beal right now, but it's an intriguing offer if you're throwing that many first-round picks out there. We cannot say anything on the Drew Holiday trade. They've played, 8 or 10 games this season in Milwaukee, so that is to be determined. And they were late first-round picks anyway. If you're Milwaukee, you're thinking, all right, we're a title contender right now with Giannis and his supermax, so that's not a bad or game-changing deal at this point in time, because these late first-round draft picks are thrown around like Halloween candy in the NBA. I think New York is a better spot than Lenny feels it is. Don't you? Because I think it's the destination for James Harden is not a legitimate title contender right now. And New York's not a legitimate title contender, but they have space, they have picks. Put him there. James Harden, Julius Randle. At least it's entertaining for Knicks fans.
Right. I think they make the playoffs that way, don't they?
Yeah. That's a team that back in, and that's what it's going to be like right now for James Harden.
Yeah, I just and I don't know. Is he toxic? Probably.
I don't think it's Kyrie Irving levels of toxicity.
I agree with that. All right, keep them coming. 505-246-0610. I got more emails for you. Lobos play tonight at Dixie State. What are you expecting out of that tonight? Or do you care? It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM at AM 610 Sports Animal.
Smith looking, and he's going to fire over the middle, and he's got his guy, and it's another big play. Walking away for a touchdown, Tristan Altier.
Hand it off to Chavez. Chavez breaking tackles. Look out. Chavez up the sideline. Stays in bounds. Touchdown. Volcanovic.
That replay. I got you. Measurement. I mean, Smith's got a fire on first down, and he's on the outside. There's a lot of room for Brad Thomas. A move, and he's set free. Dance into the end zone. Touchdown. So it goes.
Run with it. Stumbling. Gets down into the end zone. They're looking to throw it. And he throws it in the end zone. Caught!
First and 10 from the 11. And spin move for Smith. Push the B button. Dance into the end zone.
Throw it. Looking. Here comes the rush. Stepping up. Javier now running around. Being chased. Looks across. Throws it up and wide open. Ball is caught. Touchdown. Jimmy Gaye. Chavez dropping, looking, stepping up. He's going to run. He's got a lot of green in front of him. To the end zone. Touchdown. Rio Rancho, Isaiah Chavez. Chavez set. He's going to run with it again and dives and.
It's Austin Smith, and to the outside, a lot of room. Look out, a foot race down the sideline. All the way on the first play from scrimmage, Chris. That's a touchdown.
Scrambling. And great hit. He bounces off outside. Got some daylight at the 20, the 10, the 5. What an incredible run.
Lovato driving. They're going to count it. Gallegos. Ooh, a little spin and a finish.
There's Natalia Chavez. Good spin. Takes a. Here's Ramos. Nice jump stop to the.
Play with gambling a little bit. Oh, there's a.
Hill, little step, high window. And got the second. the middle. Here we go. 3.9. It's Cooper's going to run with it. Cooper's going to swing it out to Lowry. Lowry. Portillo couldn't get it off, and Clovis goes in. It's waved off. He did not get it off in time. Portillo.
Lobos and Dixie State tonight over on News Radio KKLB, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock start. Dixie State, a member of the Western Athletic Conference. It'll be in Dixie-Kirky, which is your new home for Lobo basketball for the next couple of weeks. After that, they go to Vegas, 2 hours down the road for a couple of games back home to Dixie State in St. George, Utah, to take on San Jose State, and then we'll see what happens after that. But we've been having conversations, JJ, about opening up and allowing our kids to play college athletics, high school athletics in our state, and I think there's a swell of support for that, and I think it's important. And I think there's I've said a number of times, we're going to go to the phones here in a second, but JJ, there's a model or models around the country that have worked, and I understand our state has a less hospital capacity, and I respect that. And as a parent, I want to see my kid play, but if I can't watch her play, but at least she's playing, to me that's a win, and I think that's where we got to go.
Yeah, at least watch it happen in person, because there's some people that could probably help getting that distributed to where you can view
networks.
High school athletics. And also, how many first-round picks do the Lobos have available? Because they're looking for a scorer. Call it the Rockets.
Ooh, James Harden to the Lobos. Does he have eligibility left? And would he be willing to go to online classes and relocate to St. George and then Lubbock and then everywhere else? Because I think he might be a little riding that bus. You might have to fly him separately. Jared, good morning. Thanks for holding. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Good morning, Jared.
Good morning. I have two observations. First off, Kyrie Irving believes the earth is flat. So as far as what he thinks or does, I don't care. I don't think anyone does. And there's a social injustice every day, so you might as well sit out for the next 1,000 years if you really believe in that, not in what's cool or what's, on the media for that week. Because if you're not sitting out every game, in my eyes, you're full of crap. Anyway, next point is, with that being said, the stuff that's happening in the local government, these people are jockeying for positions nationally, whether we can prove it or not. And if you and I were in charge of everything, and you and I want to make laws, but no one checks on us, hey, let's put some root beer in our water cooler. No one can do anything about it. Let's write the check. Well, wait a minute. We don't have enough money. Oh, let's get rid of this. Okay, cool. Now we have enough money to put root beer in our water cooler. No one can prove what I'm saying, because it's like I just ran into Hulk Hogan up at the Burger King, and he took a bite out of my Whopper. Prove me wrong. Call Hulk Hogan. You have his phone number? You probably don't. So you're never going to prove me wrong, but I can tell you these stories. And with that being said, that's what I'm saying. COVID is being used as an opportunity to just not pay, not use resources that we have. And New Mexico's in a deficit, right, before COVID. So here's a great opportunity to steal some money from this area over here and not use it over there. And no one's gonna. It's just my idea. You can't prove me right. You can't prove me wrong. And none of these politicians will tell the truth. So that is the truth.
All right, Jared. Thanks. I lost it at the Hulk Hogan bit into my Whopper thing. I mean, obviously he
prove he didn't bite into his Whopper, Jeff. You can't.
I can't. I absolutely can't. And I can't call Hulk Hogan. He's right on that. Look, some of this politically charged, you can absolutely have that argument. And I guess I don't know. This is where I'm lost, if that's right. Politically, you're getting advantage by keeping our kids down. How? Like, if I disagree with some of the policies, okay? What political gain is there by keeping our kids out of athletics, by shutting down UNM and New Mexico State? Like, what political gain is there for that? Is it somehow that you think you're leading and you're showing everybody that you're the leader in COVID prevention, but yet our numbers are no better, and in fact, many places percentage-wise worse than states who are doing it differently and have been consistently? So where's the political advantage there? Where's the gain?
I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, that's where I struggle with that. Like, I've heard that a lot, and I think there might even be something to it. But at some point when you're not getting the results, I'll give it to you. Early in the pandemic, New Mexico's numbers were better than most. Everybody else has had some sort of an evolution. We've stayed true to this. This is the way it's going to be done. Nope, damn it, this is it, this is it, this is it. No athletics, no this, no that. Have we gotten better? I mean, certainly the argument is, and I think the facts bear it out, that our numbers have gotten worse, correct? As has, a lot of the country. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the world. Don't get me wrong.
Jeffrey on the line.
Jeffrey, good morning. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hi, Jeffrey.
Good morning. With respect to your question about the governor and her, unprecedented power, in the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to several community business leaders who run, industry membership organizations, and in anticipation for the New Mexico legislative session, which initiates a week from yesterday, so next Tuesday, it's a 60-day session.
Yeah.
Many legislators, independent of each other, are very concerned with the unprecedented concentration of power by Governor Grisham. Henceforth, there is a number of folk that represent both sides of the legislature, both Democrats and Republicans, that are concerned at that unprecedented concentration of power that was actually afforded to her vis-a-vis the 2003 Emergency Powers Act. They're looking to perhaps challenge that. And if they do, there's hope and perhaps a harbinger of things to come, that they will not overturn this edict that we're still mostly in a quote-unquote red zone throughout the counties throughout New Mexico, with the exception of Catrone County. The point of all this is legislators are beginning to really consider that the governor has way too much unilateral, unprecedented power that was afforded to her through the 2003 Emergency Powers Act. So if they overturn that particular legislation, then there are folks like you, me, and others that feel it's time to open up New Mexico at least to a yellow zone.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I think most fair-minded people are not saying let's just open up and throw caution to the wind, but I think there's models, to your point, where can some industry be open? Can our kids go and play athletics? Can New Mexico and New Mexico State responsibly practice and play at home? Can businesses begin? Can people make a living again? I think we're watching. I think you believe what we believe. There's models all over the country that are showing that this can happen. Yes, is there risk, but they're doing this, and their numbers are no worse, and in most cases better than ours.
Well, keep in mind the economic detriment is unprecedented and irreversible. 227. Think about that. So far, I talked to the Restaurant Association yesterday. 227 restaurants have permanently closed in New Mexico. And those are the restaurants that have just made declarations
registered
that they're closing.
Yeah.
So, this has got to stop. And we've got to have some common sense, to your point, and at least operate under a yellow zone kind of environment. But the point is the Emergency Powers Act 2003 is what has given the governor this unprecedented power. And a lot of folks are going to look at challenging that. And that's hope for the rest of us, not just for basketball and the state level and here at UNM, but for all these businesses that are just suffering woefully.
Yep, no, you're right. All right, man, I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
And you can hear Jeffrey every Saturday afternoon over on News Radio KKB. JJ, I think the power, the structure, that's beyond kind of where I want to go with this whole thing as far as I think we're just kind of talking about policy and what's right for our kids, for our athletics, for what should happen, and businesses and sanity. And I don't know that anything's going to happen in the legislature. I think they got a lot of things to deal with, but I think that's something that's going to be discussed, don't you?
It has to be. It's a part of the process for talking about athletics, collegiate and or high school. The next step would be schooling, especially for the lower levels. And I think with colleges in that situation, while still difficult, if you want to push them a little bit further along in online learning, easier to deal with at that point than figuring out, all right, what are we doing with those elementary school kids, these middle schoolers, these high schoolers, as we start 2021.
All right, I got a bunch of emails from you, and you've sent your opinions in. I will certainly get them out there. 505-246-0610. If you want to get in on, I'm adamant today, and not just today, but that's kind of the point. I think it's time, this governor, and I think the state, it's time to allow our kids to play high school sports and salvage something of this high school season. It's time for New Mexico State to be able to practice and play volleyball, and there's models all over the country that it's being done. And as we get through the vaccination process, there's ways to get it done, and I think we're at a big detriment to our kids, and I'd love to know if you agree. If you disagree, where are you? 505-246-0610. It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610 Sports Animal.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. Call it as Javi's looking, and he's got a guy wide open, and it's Gay, and he's gonna walk into the end zone. But he did a good job with it. First and goal, it's Chavez to the middle, and Chavez stops.
And Stevens in motion. On the handoff to Mitchell. Look out! Oh, see you later. Take it to the house. Fly, Cardinals fly. To the other side, provide some protection. And off to Webskowski again. Look out! See you later. Good night. Touchdown, Webskowski. An 8. 2 receivers at the top. Harris has all day. He's going to fire to the end zone. Open man. Touchdown. Wildcats. Not a defender inside.
A little bit.
Webskowski on the sideline. Hasta mañana. He's off to the races. Touchdown, Clovis.
Albuquerque this afternoon.
34-24. Rancho late in the third. How about this run? Nice play. Dickerman. He's still on his feet. Touchdown, Wolverine.
Exactly what they want to get yards.
He's going to go for it. He's got a guy towards the end zone. It's grabs. Touchdown. What a play.
And long here for the Storm. Handoff to, we're going to fake the handoff, excuse me. Davidson on the deep ball. He's got some space, and it's caught. Still on his feet. Touchdown, Storm. Wow. Santa Maria.
And so they'll send one deep and returnable at the 2. Usually Volcano do either a reverse or a fake reverse, and here it is a reverse. And a move to the outside. There is a lane. Look out! Shot out of a cannon. Rodriguez is going to take it all the way.
Second field goal, he's got 4 points. Watson, though, goes all the way.
Hit the deck, I should say. Cordova tried to throw it off Romero. A 3 for
Opening drive, Jeff, JJ, and Micah, and Josh got a bunch of emails from you. The reason why the governor can't admit she's wrong, and if she does, she thinks her credibility is gone. What she doesn't realize is it's already gone. She has no influence anymore. That's from AC. I don't know that that's right. I think if you relax some of these or evolve some of these restrictions, I don't know that even you have to admit you're wrong. You can say we've gotten to a different place, that there's models, that there's ways that it can be done. You don't have to admit you're wrong. Todd says, when I hear the Duke City Marathon say the city forced them to cancel, I sure don't see Albuquerque's baseball team is going to take the court a week later. Yeah, we're in a place right now. I just think not necessarily because it's a new year. I just think that there's, and I think it's proven, you guys, that there's models. I'm not saying open everything. I'm not saying to get full capacity. I'm not saying run around without a mask. I'm saying let our kids play athletics because there's a way that it can be done. Dan, good morning. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hello, Dan.
Good morning, Jeff. ¿Cómo estás?
Good morning, Daniel. How are you? You well?
I'm well, brother. Vertical and moving on down the road. Hey, so real quick on this issue, I like to listen more than comment, but put a model. I hear a lot of people commenting on what's going on, but put a model, create a model, and put it in front of her. Believe me, send it over to Chris Garcia, and he'll get it in front of her. Create a model, put it in front of her, and let her look at it. And I hear a lot of people saying, "Well, this will work, that'll work." Put a model in front of them. They're reasonable people. Okay. Now, where is there? I would like somebody to tell me where there is a model in the country that it's working, because I can tell you for sure it's not working in Texas.
Why do you say that?
It's not working in Utah. For sure it's not working in Florida.
Why do you say
it's not working in California? I know this for a fact. My daughter's frontliner in Houston. She's doing the contact tracing in Houston at all the school systems. Okay, I have another daughter in Utah that it's falling apart. We know that Florida is nowhere near any kind of solution, and California speaks for itself. It's a mess. Show me a model that's working, Jeff, and you probably know one because you're more informed than I am. But for me personally, Jeff, I don't see a model that's working. I know that Michelle loves youth sports. She is one of the biggest supporters of youth sports. Both of her daughters were student athletes. I used to see her at every game, every night of the week, football games, basketball games, Lobo games. This is a huge athletic person and supporting parent and member of the community. She's our governor. But show me a model that's working. That's all I ask.
Dan.
Is this youth sports actually working? Dig deep into it. Are they going home and giving their grandparents the COVID, or their parents, or anybody else? I go ahead and I'm listening now, Jeff.
Yeah, I ask you, so working doesn't mean that there's no cases. When you say it's not working in Texas, are their rates aren't any higher than New Mexico's? Utah's aren't higher percentage than New Mexico. There is no place that it's working to a point where they've alleviated this virus. There's none. Okay, that's not what I've said at all. But it's working to a point where they're playing relatively safely, and their infection rates are no higher than ours or anybody else. You're right. California's gotten out of control. A lot of places have had their spikes and gotten out of control. Arizona did for a while. But Texas is, from every numbers I see, their infection rates aren't higher than ours, are they?
Well, they are. They are, Jeff, and let's research that, and let's talk about it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
We need a little bit of time to research it. But
yeah, I will.
Here's my take on it. I coach, and I've coached so many kids for so long. I personally would never put my kids in harm's way if I was coaching right now. And if my parents and my assistant coaches didn't want to support me on that, I would concede. I would step away and I would let them do it, because I'm just saying, me personally, I have 4 children that they're young adults now, they were all student athletes, and I look back on that, and I was scared enough just to put him on the road to drive him to Dallas and to Vegas and like that, Jeff. With the COVID, I mean, I wouldn't have. And this is hindsight, but I don't think I would have ever put him in harm's way like that. I would have just not done it.
So you're saying the kids are better off. Yeah, you think they're better off not playing. All right, and Dan, I respect that. Thanks for the call.
Thanks.
All right, so Dan feels that it's not working, and we got to wait this thing out, and the kids are better off not playing. Do I have enough time for the next one, or do I got to hold it through the top of the break? I don't have time.
Break 1 minute.
All right, yeah, we'll hold the next one. So JJ, look, I respect him. He says I'm not comfortable. I wouldn't coach. I wouldn't put my kids out there. I'm going to respectfully disagree. I'm watching what it's doing to our kids. If you're JJ, if Austin was of age to be playing sports, would you have him playing right now?
In the right environment, where I think it's the responsibility, probably empty gyms, etc. With what we've seen.
Yeah. All right. No, Dan. Look, Dan's points are fair. I guess when I tell you that there's models that work, I guess you have to define what's working. They're getting through seasons. There's nothing on earth right now that there's no COVID. There isn't. I'm not telling you that there's a system. Well, there's no COVID. Certainly with collegiate athletics, when they're testing, I think we've got models that are dramatically lower rates than the general population. Back to the phones next on the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Second field goal, he's got 4 points. Watson, though, goes all the way.
Hit the deck, I should say. Cordova tried to throw it off. Romero, a 3 for...
Set out to Jutapia. Nice move behind his back. It's a good... Here's Ramos, step back, high arcing, twine! But he needed to get his legs back under him. Ooh, little kick.
They leave it one more time. Two-hand hammer.
Look at this. They're going to go score again. Look at this.
Up top. Yes, and the finish for Akbayosi. Saved into the hands of Riak. Ahead of the pack to Davina Lovato. Up high, down hard for Akbayosi. Out of the corner, Casals, the 3-0, Katenge! Let me clean up the mess! He dropped out of the rafters for that one, Steve.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
2 to shoot. They'll get one off, and it'll count high off the window.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the long three.
Boom.
Bang. Martinez will beat the buzzer. Got it to go. His
Ford driving kick. Three's in the air. It's good.
Nice pass on the nice block by Hernandez Crawford.
And Brown in the transition. But why not, Steve? Is Corbalan's going to go when he puts it away? And Corbalan wants to put it down. But here comes Screechers. Brown, you can't leave him alone. Put it down.
Gershon in transitions, 3-on-2. Gershon going to go all the way. Whoa, Morgan will...
All right, interesting conversation today, and I appreciate the passion on both sides of this, because there's really a lot of truth on both sides. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So what's the solution? And it's probably somewhere in the middle on this thing. And we've been having conversation this morning. Is it time, JJ and I believe, to let our kids play high school sports, certainly cross country, golf, volleyball, basketball. We've talked about a football season. You know, the Aggies are going to play football. Are they going to have to go out of state? Is it time to let Lobo baseball practice? Even if you're not going to let them play here, should they be able to practice Lobo basketball, volleyball, Aggies in state instead of having to go out? And we've been having conversations that other states are letting this happen and their models are working. Dan just came in and said, where is it working? It's not working because there are COVID positive cases. Are they taking the COVID home to their grandparents? It's the opening drive. Jeff Siembieda and JJ Buck. JJ, this is a tough conversation. It's a tough situation. We've been in this for 10 months, and the government in this state has basically flatlined it. Here's where it's going to be. Is it time to evolve? And I think that's why the conversation has come up. We're weeks away from really a drop dead for high school sports, right? I mean, it's going to have to be now or never. And I think these kids, there's a way to let it happen. And I think they need it. I think mental health wise, physical health wise, I think they need, and I think the positives outweigh the negatives at that point to do it the right way.
Grady, Ray, and Ray on the line.
And it's just, you don't know where the discussions are, if they've been going on. We all get it. There's so much to deal with during this time, but it's an important step, not just athletics, but schooling going forward into the new year. And I think everyone is just wondering, is there any traction on it? What is the discussion? And okay, we're sitting here now, but does that mean you're talking about what's going to happen in a week? What's the deal?
All right, Hondo replied to Dan. He says, Jeff, here's the fallacy in his point of view. If the students weren't playing, there would be no COVID cases. But statistics show that even if they weren't at school and instead spent all day with their friends, playing video games, watching Netflix, hanging out at Costco, there'd still be COVID positive cases, which is correct. And I think, honestly, it's been proven if you put them in a somewhat controlled environment, you give them motivation to do the right thing, the numbers, they're doing the right thing. Grady, good morning. We got one line open at 246-0610. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hi, Grady.
Flat Earther Bashers, OD and the AM. What's going on?
I almost fell off the earth the other day. I swear I almost did.
Oh, it's funny because the guy that called and said you couldn't prove Hulk Hogan talked to him, ate his Whopper. Can you prove the Earth is round? Can you walk to the edge? I mean, you know, that's kind of where that logic falls with me. But anyway, it's interesting. And Jeff, I want to make sure that I'm not putting words in your mouth. So the way I understand the argument of it's time to play because there are models that are working, and when Dan called and said, well, they're not working because there are cases. So if I'm understanding correctly, your argument is there's COVID everywhere. There are going to be cases regardless. So we might as well let the kids play, not necessarily putting them at any greater risk, but to alleviate the damage, mental health, etc., right?
Partially. I think that's partially part of my argument. I think that there's motivation. I think, first of all, at the collegiate level, I think it's been proven, certainly in this state, that in the controlled environment, the numbers, COVID-positive cases in the controlled environment at the collegiate level are at lower numbers than the general population. Do we agree with that?
The collegiate bubble, sure.
Yeah.
I think that's undeniable.
I believe that to be undeniable and safer. And at the high school level, I think that we're watching sports be played around the country, and I do believe that a controlled environment would be motivation to do the right thing, and the mental health, the physical health positives. At this point, the negatives are I've watched it on a first-hand basis. Yeah, I do believe that the positives would outweigh the negatives right now.
So you're saying the risk of contracting COVID, the risk of bringing it home, does not outweigh the risk of further damage mentally, physically.
Yeah, I'm at that point. Yeah, I am there.
Okay, that's interesting. And I would say, you know, places like California, what have you, and then that have had outbreaks, that have had serious numbers, and so one could argue, well, and even here in New Mexico, well, our numbers percentage-wise are worse, so the policies aren't working. And I guess one could argue that. Now, I would counter, well, are the policies being followed? You know, my parents live at Wantagona Indian School, and my mom was at the Albertsons on Wantagona and Candelaria, and there were more than a few people walking around without masks, just kind of doing their thing. So when we point out that the policies are, quite frankly, aren't working, I think we're not necessarily being honest when we don't point out
Ray
and
Edward.
People aren't following them, and people haven't been doing it from jump. Now, I personally have know 6 people that say they could see me in the street, hey, Grady, how you doing, that have had COVID, and 2 are dead. One's a classmate, one's a dad or father's classmate. So, you know, so I'm at a 30% death rate as far as COVID in my particular little bubble. So, to me, the risk, I think it's a little bit more than just, well, you know, it's a myth being used by politicians for power.
Nobody's saying that here. Nobody's saying that here.
I know you didn't say that. But there have been people saying it. And to me, the guy that just called earlier said that. So when we talk about the number of businesses, restaurants that have closed, we say this number and we want to gasp at it. We also leave off the number of people that are dead.
True.
So with all that, we want to make sure that, you know, the controlled environment is the controlled environment. So I'll give you an example. So up here, we were actually able to do the pod workout a while ago with, 4-to-1 ratio. However, we didn't start when everybody else did because we didn't have enough cleaning supplies and we didn't have enough staff. Because the same folks that are cleaning the gyms are the same ones driving the buses and they're the same ones delivering the meals and the same one cleaning the classroom for the special education need kids that are here on campus receiving one-on-one attention. So it's not quite as easy as let's just decide this. Now, maybe for schools in the metro, sure. But statewide, we would love to get back to it. So I'm with you. I just want to bring out the point that it's just not that simple.
I agree. There's no blanket statement here, and absolutely agree. And Pecos is going to be different than Albuquerque. Totally agree. And there is no blanket statement, and there's no 100% on it. Like, would you let your kids go back if your kids could go back and play sports tomorrow? Would you let them go play?
In the right environment, yes.
In the right environment. That's what we're saying. And that's all. Nobody's saying open everything wide open.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with you with the right because I'm with you. I have a 15-year-old here, athlete that's suffering. So yeah, the right environment. I definitely want to make sure that it happens. But again, when we say the right environment, are we going to make sure that everybody follows those rules? Are we going to make sure that everybody sticks to those rules? Because not everybody's doing it now. So what makes you think that people are going to do it then?
Yeah, that's fair. All right, man. No, I appreciate the call, and it's good. Grady, JJ, I appreciate what he's saying. I've got dear friends who have passed away from COVID. It kills me. The void in my heart is is real. And I also watch what's going on. The right environment, and there is no blanket on this. There's no 100%. I get that. I don't think any of us are saying that. Ray,
and it's on to now figuring out what that is, and how do we get to that right environment?
But I think we've got to start moving towards that. I do. That's what this conversation is about. Hello, Ray.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Earlier, you were looking for some statistics, COVID statistics, for I think some surrounding states. Well, I can give you death rates per 100,000 population for the states around us. And we can judge for ourselves regarding how open they are or are not. And we can look at these statistics. The states around us, Arizona has 144, and these are updated this month by a very well-known and highly credible source. 144 deaths per 100,000. New Mexico is next on that list at 133 deaths per 100,000.
Is that per 100,000 people or per 100,000 cases?
Per 100,000 people. Per 100,000 people. I'm just looking at
okay. Yeah, go
COVID
ahead.
death rates per 100,000 population.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, New Mexico is next at 133. Nevada, a close enough state, 115 per 100,000.
Yep.
Kansas, a close enough state, 111 per 100,000. I'm just going down a list here. Texas, 107 deaths per 100,000.
I mean, all ridiculously high numbers, Ray. But what you're saying is we're at the top.
But the point is that most of these states are a lot more open than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And their death rates are lower.
Yeah, that was my point.
Colorado, 91 cases per 100,000.
Yeah.
Nebraska, 93 cases per 100,000. Wyoming, 90 cases per 100,000.
Yeah, no, I get the point. I appreciate the research
Utah,
that you did.
listen to this one. Utah, 44 cases per 100,000.
Yeah.
So the point is
that cases or death rate? Wait. Is that cases or death rate? Cases?
No, this is death rate per 100,000 people living in those states.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with case rates. It's death rate.
Got it.
Isn't that the criteria for danger?
Well, it's a criteria.
The death rate?
Yeah, it's the. No, Ray, I appreciate the research and the numbers.
Yeah, but anyway, hey, let the kids play. Jeez. These other states are doing it.
Yeah. Thank you. JJ, do those numbers resonate to you? I mean, we're at 133, according to him, 133 per 100,000 people are dying. It's a gigantic number. And I appreciate doing everything we can to keep people safe. Does that put in perspective at all for you? Because it does for me a little bit.
Add some context to the conversation.
Yeah. All right, more phone calls. We get back. Two lines are open at 246-0610. On the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.
The Sports Bar with Michael and Mike. We saw.
Played over to Madrid, plays it across the box off the dasher. It's settled, shot on by Garcia, trickles in, goal.
Chavez blocked at the rim. And here's Dorian Lewis to Watson.
Shot on and just wide, big deflection, goal.
With his first field goal. Look at that. That's gorgeous.
Not a game you can go have 25 turnovers in and win.
Get that out of here, Watson says. Here comes Hodnett all the way. He's blocked in return. Dickey, did he get it off? He did, and he hit it.
They're really.
Oliveras. Wild three, and it hit.
Another steal nearly by Hiron. It is a steal. Avalos ahead to Hiron. The two-hand hammer by Hiron. I knew he was going to put that one down.
ProView Networks tonight.
District mashup there.
Davidson took it away in transition. Might be time for a jam. Yes,
Oh!
Big Barton, watch him, coach. Watch the inbounder.
Dumas Sanchez in the corner.
Back to Barton with 2.4 seconds left. Fires for the win. And he got it! It's good.
Oh my God!
On the last second shot.
He did.
Oh my God! Bakes it in from 25 feet and watch the celebration right in front of us. What a shot by Barton. He was double teamed and somehow found a way to get it in. Ramos to Gaxiola, high window for the win. It's good. It counts. Gaxiola with the game winner for a Driscoll Heritage.
Wants another.
Opportunity here. Martinez shoots, he scores.
Got into it. And had some nice looks at the rim. Win. Inside. They're not going to miss this one. Two-hand hammer from Murillo.
Ball's played up. Rodriguez with it. Gonna settle. Looks to the inside. Comes to the far side push. Shot on and goal. Deflected in. No.
Dorian's gonna go all the way. It was blocked by the rim. Get it out, says Kobe Wade. Ramos. Got it. Look out. Ramos, can he chase it down? It was a freebie. Saved it.
This we are all very much are, but there are near 400,000 examples that show us that it could be way worse than just being tired of all this. We'll recover if we're still here, and that's not being dramatic. I just, with all due respect, John, I got it. You don't agree. And that's fine. I respect that. I absolutely do. Nobody has been screaming. You have not heard one of the hosts on this radio show say the governor is evil and damn the governor. You have not heard that at all. And if that, well, that's first of all, that's not. I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's what you've heard, but that has not been said one time by any of the hosts here. And I know you're going to go post on your social media pages how these radio hosts are horrible, and that's fine. Go do your thing. But what you're hearing and what is being said is not right. And just because, and nobody, neither you nor me nor anybody is taking this virus lightly. I've lost dear people to me. And if the answer to you is just shelter in place, that's fine. I mean, I think that's an option too. But to re-examine and we're having a conversation about moving forward and should our kids be able to play athletics? Is there a safe way? And I get, it's unfortunate sometimes when you hear things that aren't being said, you just hear what you want to hear, and it bothers me. Edward, good morning. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hello, Edward.
The cognitive dissonance and the function of human dynamics and how people process information and internalize it based on personal experiences. John's actually probably a good study. I don't want to get posted on his media sites. I'm not taking a shot at him. I just find it interesting. And no matter how right one side or the other may think they are, the other side's going to dig in even more. And that's where the shouting occurs. You know, I just called in to see if we were going to beat the Dixie Chicks tonight. Aren't the Lobos playing the Dixie Chicks? Is that who we're playing?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The Dixie Chicks, right? By the way, the Dixie Chicks were banned by the president for speaking out against the president a few presidential candidates ago. You know, for every Edward who goes to the gym on a daily basis and sees hundreds of people in the gym sweating, moving, navigating through workout equipment, sweating on each other, whatever goes on at the gyms, there's a Grady who has lost 1/3 of his inner bubble to the COVID situation. So I don't know what the answer is, right? I just listen. I try to educate myself, be informed, be open to different mindsets. I do enjoy Jeffrey's, breakdown and extrapolation of both how laws were implemented and the ripple effect. And I learn something new every day. And I don't know what the answer is. I just try to learn, right? And I agree. At some point, we don't go haphazard and open the floodgates. But an individual or an entity, an organization only has to ask themselves one question. How's it working out for you? If people can take a step back and ask that general question in any capacity of life, hey, how's it working out for you? And if it's not going well, you might want to change course, change trajectories, or maybe do something a little bit different. And that's what the words of encouragement that I speak. But it's a fascinating topic. I enjoy everybody's input and takes, and it was good. Lenny got the bat signal. Lenny, it's good to hear your calls with your long momentary pauses of silence, but they're good content, and I enjoy them. Gentlemen, thank you for letting me say a few words, and I hope you guys enjoy your day.
Good day. Chris is in on the death rate. The caller who was using the high death rate in New Mexico as a reason for us to open up makes no sense and actually makes the governor's point. Our population is more susceptible to the virus and we are dying at higher rates. Our population is more susceptible as a statewide population. I think that's right. Poverty, pre-existing conditions, all that's right, JJ. Again, can we reset here for a quick second? And then we'll go to David. Neither you nor I are calling for us to completely open up, are we?
No, that's not what we're saying in this conversation.
All right. Is there a safe way for, and I read more of John's email, and people are calling about sports and what do you say, sport things, money in sports, and that shouldn't be a priority right now. It should be a part of the conversation because is this not about mental health? People losing their jobs and business shutting down, is that not part about your mental health? Is what's going on with our kids, is that not health? Is mental health not health? And I'm not telling you throw away these numbers, John. Nobody's saying people aren't dying and it's not serious. What you're telling me is, boom, shut it down, and that's it, and that's the only way. And I think there is a broader conversation, and we're watching different things happen in different ways. You hearing what you're hearing and not being what's being said is unfortunate. But I just let's reset. Nobody's yelling. At least the hosts aren't. Open up. Throw caution to the wind. This thing's over. That's not what anybody's saying. JJ, this conversation has been: it started out with, can New Mexico State practice volleyball in a controlled environment and travel to games? Can UNM practice basketball in a controlled environment and travel or play games? That's how this started, right? And that's kind of where we're going. Nobody said, open everything up and take off your mask. David, good morning. You're on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hello, David.
Hello, and kind of briefly, a couple of things that are kind of hierarchical, but kind of to the point. This. Why is it time now, as if we've drawn a line and ultimately whatever's happened up till now is the before and after that line is the after? And the obvious answer that's kind of prevailing throughout this pandemic is fatigue. And the other question answered is, well, I don't agree with this ideology. And the third that you're mentioning is, well, the economic impact. So those three would lead to people saying, well, enough of this stuff, but they pretty much lead to the answer of fatigue. And the other category is, well, statistics. The person said, well, there's only one statistic, death rates. Well, per 100,000, there's also the rate of positivity among people who are tested, as well as what percentage of your population is tested, as well as what percentage of your population is susceptible, as well as your capacity. And the person mentioning death rates in the area didn't mention Texas, Arizona, and in which case, throughout this, if you can remember, Texas and Arizona both said, well, to hell with this. We're going to open up. And you know what happened over that thing from March to summer? Texas had a main problem. El Paso had a main problem. So did Arizona. And they remained open. I guess the question, and my understanding of politics is not the Democratic-Republican thing, but the idea is you have a limited resource, and literally you sit people down at the table and then have that discussion. The problem is there's going to be influential people who say, well, this, by damn, is what I want to do. And I have the influence to get that true. And literally that should happen. And the other people say, well, we have limited money, so we should ultimately put it there. And the kicker to this in New Mexico is we have limited capacity, and not all tests are done. We're actually, in my opinion, not testing as many people as we are. And if we did, we would probably have a much higher number. So the question is, what makes this point in time so arbitrarily the time we need to go forward? And to that point, if we open school athletics without opening schools, on the idea that school athletics are then going to drive that, then most teachers, if surveyed, are going to say, well, wait a minute, I as a teacher don't feel safe in schools. So how are we opening athletics but not schools?
All right, so the answer is what?
The answer is somewhat a time-limited access, meaning if we could subject the schools to the rate of population and spread, meaning we would literally have to test every student.
Okay. So
that becomes expensive.
I got it. So you're suggesting what for now? Just stay completely shut until everybody's vaccinated, and which is fine.
I would suggest the thing is producer testing. And the thing that China, Asia showed in the beginning, test, identify, track, and quarantine. But that has proven expensive. And if we're going to test student populations, then literally it's the same dynamic that came up in the SEC versus the ACC versus the Big Ten versus the Pac-12. All schools couldn't afford that. So the question is, do we test all student athletes and everybody participating in an athletic event? Yeah. I would suggest testing school students and their parents, their family members, before they participate.
Okay,
meaning if they test negative in the same way that college does, then they proceed.
All right. No, I appreciate it, and thank you, David. And I'm down with that. A couple of things there, JJ. Ray did mention Arizona and Texas in his numbers. Arizona was at the top of that chart, and Texas was somewhat in the middle. And to David's point, he's right. I don't think death rates is the only metric to look at. He said, is that the most important? It might be, but the positivity rate And then the susceptibility here. I didn't mean to do this, and I'm sorry that I hijacked this today, and I see the look on your face, and I apologize. It really started out as a conversation. And why now, to his point? Why now? I think we've got models. We're at a point in the on the calendar where it's do or die for this athletic season. I mean, that's really why
it's
this
just the next step in the calendar. We're past the holidays. We're past the break. It's, so to speak, what we see happen in the winter around Christmas. So it's the next talking point. That's why it's not just some random line and date where we say we're fatigued now. No, it's just you're nearing the next questions that need to be answered with spring athletics across the board. And it's something that I've said, and I'll say it again because people don't listen to every single minute of the show, and that's why sometimes you get the reaction of they hear just a certain part of the conversation and will go off, is teachers do need to be vaccinated. Schools moving forward will then roll into athletics. It's not just, hey, I want to see high school basketball. Hey, I want to see track and field. No, it's about every student out there right now and what can we do moving forward. It's not a blanket, open up the state, let's go. You can look at these things individually, but what happens is in these conversations is we get pulled back to that point of where it's a gigantic discussion. It's we're sitting here talking about high school, college athletics, which then is a trickle-down effect to the students, but then somehow people want to bring it to restaurants and their everyday life and things we do, et cetera. No, you can do these things separately. You can't do this with a giant blanket for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I keep looking more and more at what John's saying, and I've seen John's social media posts, and he's taking his shots at us, and that's fine. And I appreciate the email. I really do, John. And I appreciate your point of view. I know you don't appreciate ours. This is one of those where if you don't see it like me, man, you're wrong, and that's fine. There's a ton of that in our society right now. John, nobody said open this thing up, go completely. We believe, and if you believe differently, all the power to you, and I respect you. And I don't care if you respect me or not, I really don't. There's a way to do golf and cross country and volleyball. And we've watched it. And I don't want my 83-year-old mother getting this. I don't want me getting it. I've got a pre-existing condition. But I look at what it's doing to our kids. We've got a real mental health situation, not with my daughter, but in her friends group right now going on. Right? I'm watching what it does. Do I believe letting them have some interaction in athletics in a controlled, safe environment would be helpful? I absolutely do. That's where this conversation is coming. This isn't about me, about money, about opening up. It's about mental health in a large respect. It's the opening drive on 95.9 FM. At AM 610, the Sports Animal.
In the wake of COVID-19, Project Shine
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Dribble, spin cycle, up and under move. What a pass, wrap around pass.
Harris, Legate, the long bomb, 3-ball.
Oh, great steal. by Quinteros, lays it up and scores.
A little jump step in the... And look out, here comes Agbayosi. Crawford set. That's blocked. Lansing says, get that out of here. Sister to sister, Marianne Lansing's going to go all the way. Turnaround. Ramos, pump fake, everyone bites. Ramos hits.
Jackson loses it. Taylor Bond back. LAU. Put it down. Dunkalicious. How about it?
It's Dixie State, by the way, not the Dixie Chicks, Edward. See what he did there to make it funny? He didn't get the reaction he wanted, JJ, from you, so he said it 3 times.
He's like, did you hear me? Get it? Dixie Chicks.
You see what I said?
Chicks.
Arkansas Pine Sol, see what I did there? Come on. Ha-ha. Come on.
LOL.
Dixie State.
Sorry, we don't have the laugh track available today.
Over on News Radio, KKOB, 7 o'clock tonight. 6:30 pregame show. Robert Portnoy and Hunter Green on the call as the Lobos jump out of conference play for a minute and then back into it against UNLV this weekend. Terry says, tough subject, guys. In Texas, at least in the Dallas area, kids that attended high school in person get their temperature checked. Walking in the school, if you have a temperature, you're sent home. Actual testing, not so much. Athletes played football games with a few postponed or canceled. Okay, let the kids play. And then when somebody calls in and says, it's like the flu, I realize how many people still don't understand. Odds are very slim that the kids will get sick. As parents, our kids are the most important things in our lives, both physical and mental health. Glad my daughter got her vaccine. Had to face this virus head on for months. As a parent, I was scared to death. Wish the best for everyone. That's from Terry. Look, there's no easy solution. As much as, you know, and even John thinks it's an easy solution. Just shut it down. Okay. Not everybody is willing to accept that as the solution. I think I read Chris's, the caller who was using the death rate in New Mexico as a reason for us to open up makes no sense. Actually, it makes the governor's point because our population is more susceptible. Jeremy replying to the caller that asked about volleyball, Jeff, well, Utah State's playing in 3 weeks in Lobo volleyball on Johnson Gym is on their schedule. Good luck with that. Freddie says on high school sports, JJ, I believe the kids should be playing sports. He says, my son is a high school football player. For weeks now, on Saturday and Sunday, the kids themselves have been playing 7-on-7 against other schools, kids and men from Kirtland Air Force Base and graduated kids, mostly at CNM. My son actually played against Isaiah Chavez and some of his ex-Rio Rancho teammates 2 weekends ago, and they won, LOL.
Vince on the line.
The point, he says, is kids from just about every high school and other groups have been playing and collaborating via gaming sites for a few months now to play. No one's complained about COVID. I don't know if no one, Freddie, and I don't, you know, it's a good point, JJ. The kids have been out probably. Most of the high school kids have been playing in an uncontrolled environment. Would it be better in a controlled environment? I don't know. Vince, good morning. You're up next on the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Hello, Vince.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. I'm going to keep it short because I know you guys have been beat up with all the other callers, but I just apologize on behalf of the listening audience today because I think you guys are just trying to start some dialogue on, you know, the mental and psychological well-being of our children. You know, there was that kid that committed suicide last week in Hobbs just because of the social isolation. And unfortunately, we're going to have a long-term problem that's going to come out of this, you know, the COVID-19, the lockdown and everything. And I think everyone just needs to take a step back. We need to get out of this political realm and, what you believe, what you don't believe. No one is discounting, the seriousness of this. Everyone has their position and their beliefs. But at some point, we have to at least begin talking about how we get our kids engaged again. Because unfortunately, I think what happened last week in Hobbs is going to start happening way too often in the future. And, my kids are grown, but I just feel so sorry for parents today that have kids that are missing out on the whole school environment, missing out on sports. This is the time of their life where they really learn how to become socially engaged, and that's been robbed from them. And we need to start being adults and having some discussions about how we can start doing things in a controlled environment so they can begin to start getting back to life as we used to know it. So I appreciate what you guys have talked about. Fortunately, we've changed it from a sports topic today, but thanks for discussing it. And again, I think we need to start having this conversation because I think that's the whole purpose of bringing this up today. Thanks again, guys. Great show as always.
Vince. Thank you, Vince. That's the best call I've heard, and not because it's got my point of view, but I think it's taking everything into consideration. That's all we're trying to do, JJ. Nobody's trying to, and again, John, nobody has raised their voice once today. Nobody's screaming. And if you hear a voice, an opinion that is not yours, that doesn't mean it's screaming or whining or any of the words that you put into your social media posts or into that email. JJ, that's all we've tried to do is have a conversation. I'm watching firsthand, and many of you are too, what this is doing to our kids. So what do we do for them? This isn't about, I want to watch a high school basketball game. I don't give a damn. For me, honestly, I'm probably not going to go to one. Not that I would be allowed to. I'm not telling you there should be fans. This is about our kids engaging and socializing and what is right for them. That's all. Understanding that we are in a global pandemic, and if they get sick, they take it home potentially to me. Understood. That's all this conversation's about. I damn near feel like I want to whisper it, JJ. Because almost whispering might be louder to get the point across. That's all.
It's the idea that can you do something separate from everything else? And the answer, I believe, is yes, if you can start having that conversation. And Vince is right. It gets pulled one way or the other. As we're as we were discussing athletics and then the trickle-down effect and then students and then schooling, sometimes all people hear is, I just want to run out of my front door naked, don't care, let's party and have some fun. And then that's not the case at all. By the time we get to that point, yeah, it might be great. Let's go streaking. I'll see you on the quad. But until then, how can we get there and start making things better for people? In this case, young student athletes and students as a whole. And that's been one of the things that I want to make sure I say in this conversation. It's just, I'm not just focused on athletics. I understand the big picture. And it's like, where do we start? We have to start somewhere because everything can't get rolling at once. It's not possible. But if you start looking at things like school, teachers, getting kids back to school, then it's not just athletics, it's band, it's drama, it's these other things that, these outlets for these students that you start piecing back together. And why it came up today is because we're approaching that next decision for athletics and the spring sports. They're trying to put something, what's the decision? Baseball, volleyball, etc. And so you readdress it again and wonder, all right, have we gotten anywhere? Is there any positive conversations in this, and what can we do?
Jason with some voice of reason when we get back. He's a Hall of Fame emailer. What he has to say. Still time for you to pop in at 505-246-0610. Good conversation for the most part on the opening drive on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.
The New The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Dorian over. Did he get in?
Yeah, they got in.
Touchdown, Dorian Lewis.
Seconds to play. Benavides looking, still looking up the middle. It's intercepted. It's picked off by Freddie Anaya, and Roswell's season will end perfect.
Second quarter, 2nd and 4 for Socorro at the whole 44-yard line. McDaniel trying, good block by Hicks. First down and more, 30, 25, 20. McDaniel might be gone. Touchdown.
Wow.
Touchdown for Michael McDaniel.
It's 40 seconds this year. It's not like 25 like it used to be.
He laterals it back. What a play by Hightower. Pitch.
Looked like somebody moved a little bit early. Hicks, the play fake double move. He's got his receiver wide open. Caught. One man to beat. Touchdown. Touchdown to number 17, Nathaniel.
Third and 6. Big defensive play coming up here. Little trickery to Reese. See you later. Touchdown. They went for the deep ball to Reese.
To the right, single receiver split to the left. Play fake, and up the middle's got some room. 50, 45, 40, has one man to beat. 30, 25, 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Hope.
Wow.
On a
option again, he'll keep it. Now he'll pitch it. Comes out to the 30, 25, 20, up the sideline. Still inbounds, into the end zone. Let's see.
Touchdown.
Touchdown, Portel.
The outside of running an out route. Davis and in the play action, looking. He's going to go back to Lewis, and Lewis makes a cut, and Lewis still on his feet. Dorian Lewis is in for a touchdown. Back to toss, and he's got all day. It's one miss, and he's rolling. He's got a guy. Can he?
Thank you. Both sides of this conversation, and I respect all of the opinions that we're in. I mean, Ray came in with some statistics, and Grady came in with really, I thought, measured thoughts. Dan was very passionate. Where he was, Jeffrey, like all y'all, we had a lot of phone calls today on a really tough conversation. I want to get to this email. JJ, I don't have all the answers. I know you don't feel that you do either. I think we all believe that there's got to be some conversation about what do we do to get our kids back for the health of them. And again, is there a way to do college athletics safely? And I firmly believe that. But this isn't about throwing caution to the wind and having more people die. Nobody wants that, man. I've lost some people who were family to me, man. Very, very close, dear stuff that has just brought me to my knees. But that doesn't mean I think that our kids need to be shut in. There's got to be a way. And I'm sorry what you're hearing is just open up and this virus isn't real. That nobody is sitting here saying that. And JJ, I appreciate, and this isn't where I intended for the show to go today. I just didn't. But I appreciate that we have the conversation and hopefully maybe forward it a little bit. That's all. That's all.
I'm right there with you.
Jason says it's not simple. quote, sports is not important, end quote, said the guy listening to a sports talk radio program. So the interesting thing with this topic, and maybe it's a microcosm for what's happening statewide, is no one wants to listen to either side. Everyone wants to be a cheerleader for their side and wants to be right. But if you have a different opinion, it's seen as a bad take, much like sports fans. Personally, I hope we can figure it out and get back to playing, watching, and enjoying sports. But I also hope sincerely that we can all get back to a place where we can listen. So speaking of which, I thought I'd ask this question. What does anyone know about the Dixie State Trailblazers? Scouting report, anyone? Listening? Crimson Elite, Jason.
That ball's in your court, Jason. That should be your specialty.
That's right. That's your beat, Jason. That's your beat. I'll have a scouting. Mike, can you do the scouting report on the Trailblazers for tonight?
You got 27 seconds.
Get it done. They go 6'5", 6'7", 6'9" across the front line. I saw that.
Well,
they're not incredibly big.
They got a point guard out there, and they got a shooting guard and a center and a power forward, maybe a small forward out there. So we're going to see 5 men out there on the court with the head coach coaching them up.
Oh, damn. Okay. What colors do they wear? Do you know? That should be the easiest thing. They'll be wearing home whites, I believe. Dixie State Trailblazers. I actually, what Jason says is what I've been saying for, gosh, JJ, how long? Nobody wants to listen. And that's, I'm not going to sit here and pat ourselves on the back, but I'll tell you our approach. JJ, you and I have been lock, stock in this, I believe, since this whole thing started. I hope we've listened. I really hope we've listened to the other side. I've told you, nobody wants to listen anymore. And I didn't think we were going to solve this today. I don't think we did. All I'm saying is, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Where do we go next?
It's a question that we don't have an answer to, but we're just trying to say, hey, is there a starting point? Is there a way we can address this with the understanding it's not a blanket conversation?
Yeah. Look, again, and if you're just joining the conversation, I'm not, JJ's not, no host on the show is. It's a no big deal conversation that we should just throw away the mask and open up. That's not what we're saying. None of us are saying that. But how do we, like I asked you back in freaking July, how do we coexist with this virus? And should our kids be able to run cross country, play golf, play volleyball? Dare I say play basketball or potentially football? Like they're doing in most states around the country. That's all. Mental health of our kids. All right, JJ, what happens tonight in beautiful St. George, Utah? Lobos are a 1-point favorite against the Trailblazers of Dixie State. When we sit here tomorrow morning, when we reconvene and have this conversation about the Lobos in their new home in Dixie-Kirky, we are going to be talking about what?
So are they playing for who gets to call that their home gym? Is that what's on the line?
Oh. No, it's the other guy's home gym. I don't think that's on the line.
Still like king of the court style, like they own the court, then Dixie State has to keep playing until they win it back.
No, I believe it's still theirs. By the way, they are black, white, and red are their colors. Okay. Black, white, and red.
Hard fought, close Lobo victory. I'll say I'm doing it.
So you're down. Do they cover the one? So you're betting the Lobos tonight. You're laying the one. You're laying the point that's out there. Okay. I think I agree with you.
I know nothing about Dixie State right now, and who knows? Like some guy's going to come off the bench and hit 8 3-pointers for that team. And they're going to be like, "What?"
Yeah, who was Laurent Livard, right? Who's the guy from Sandy, Utah that just went off the bench? I got an email from someone saying that Paul Weir's in a no-win situation because if they win today, people are going to say it was just Dixie State. Here it is. It's right here. It's from Dan. And if they lose or sneak out of St. George with an ugly 5-6 point win, callers tomorrow are going to be losing their mind. Are we at the point where any win's going to make you feel better right now?
I'll take the side of winning in the no-win situation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely will I. John wants to know, morning, guys. I got a question for you that was asked me by an Aggie fan, my sister. What are the Lobos known for since Weir took over? What's their identity? I knew it was a sarcastic question, but in reality, what are Weir's teams known for? What would you say is the identity of this program for the past 4 years since Paul Weir's been? That's an interesting conversation, probably deeper than we have time for. But what would you say is the identity of a Paul Weir program?
There's not one because it's been yearly. Like each team has been dramatically different, so there's not necessarily an established. This is at least what they're doing, because it was the press early kind of went away from that, kind of got back to it this year. So they haven't been able to establish that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know that there is an identity.
Sweaters. That's their identity.
Sweaters? All right. Red sweaters?
Not it's the short sleeve collared shirt now.
Oh, he went with the long sleeve, the quarter zip the other day, the new Nike thing with the different colored lower sleeves.
So he's finding his new identity too.
I think he wore the same quarter zip that Ryan Day wore in the college football championship game the other day, didn't he? Same one, just different logo.
I like how now that with no fans, everyone's just all casual. Like NBA coaches just like sweatsuits. It's like, yeah, what's
that's the way they should roll. I think that's the way they should roll all the time. I mean, baseball managers wear uniform for crying out loud.
Always, I think that's one of the funniest things in sports. Like, it makes sense because we've just watched it and that's what we're accustomed to. But could you imagine Greg Popovich standing there on the sidelines wearing a Spurs jersey?
Well, but he would wear the warm-up, the same warm-up suit that the team wears. Yeah, just got warm in here, just rip them off.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
Get a technical foul. Ripped off his pants.
I've seen too much. T on the San Antonio bench. Brant says the return of Weir, Jeff, the attrition in the last few years has to be breathtaking, not only among players, but also staff. If you're Nunez, you can't let this continue, right? You make Weir present you a plan on roster stabilization when you evaluate his future. Do you really want to see a new lineup again in 21 and 22? It's the conversation tomorrow, too. All right, Jim Rome Show is next. Dan Patrick Show's after that. Sports Bar at 3. We're back tomorrow morning with award-winning radio. Don't forget Lobos over on News Radio KKOB at 6:30 tonight. Josh, great work. You can watch the show over on Comcast Channel 26 at 3 o'clock if you missed any of it today. And
I'm going to get that man a coffee.
Hopefully, yeah, right? Hopefully hear what was said. Micah, great work. JJ, sorry about that. I took this down a path that I didn't totally intend today, but
I held on.
Yeah.
Meditating.
Be good to each other, please. Be kind, loving, caring, and sharing. We'll smell you tomorrow. Good day.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Let's see if Melfi can cash it in. He's got some protection. Deep ball. Erickson's open. Touchdown, Monarchs.
Second and 10. Smith looking, and he's going to fire over the middle, and he's got his guy, and it's another big play. Walking away for a touchdown, Tristan Altier.
Going to hand it off to Chavez. Chavez breaking tackles. Look out. Chavez up the sideline. Stays in bounds. Touchdown. Volcanovic.
That replay,
I got you.
Measurement. I mean,
Smith's got a fire on first down, and he's on the outside. There's a lot of room for Brad Thomas. A move, and he's set free. Dance into the end zone. Touchdown. So it goes.
He'll run with it. Stumbling. Gets down into the end zone. And looking to throw it. And he throws it in the end zone. Caught!
First and 10 from the 11. And spin move for Smith. Push the B button. Dance into the end zone.
They'll throw it. Looking. Here comes the rush. Stepping up. Pavia now running around. Being chased. Looks across. Throws it up, man's wide open. Ball is caught. Touchdown. Siembieda. Dropping, looking, stepping up. He's going to run. He's got a lot of green in front of him. To the end zone. Touchdown. Rio Rancho, Isaiah Chavez. Chavez set. He's going to run with it again and dives and...
It's Austin Smith, and to the outside, a lot of room. Look out, a foot race down the sideline. All the way on the first play from scrimmage, Chris. That's a touchdown.
Scrambling. And off, great hit. He bounces off outside. Got some daylight at the 20, the 10, the 5. What an incredible run.